I'm not getting any echo, but I don't oddly see myself, and I see you, and you're alive. Where am I?
Can I chroma key in Discord video? Is
I
that a
don't
thing?
know.
Hmm.
Oh dear. Sound is good, but you don't see me, right? We see Julia. We see
See me, not
composing
you.
Julia, but my camera has disappeared. What's up, Alfred?
Oh
2P Alfred
boy.
Jones. What's up, Kima BG? Sound is good. Okay, cool. So why do I not see myself? I'm not so sure. Interesting. Properties. Let's try this for a second. Wow, that's not good. Actually, Edenwaith pointed out it is good. You don't see me. That's probably a good thing, right? You know what? I think I know exactly what the problem is. Give me 1 second.
Well, if we can't see you, how are we going to see,
No, 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 no. I know
your
it. I know what.
Transformers or your
I
big
know why you can't
boxes?
see me. Now you should be able to see me in a second. There we go.
It's
Now we can see me. Well, I can see me. I suppose everybody else should be able to see me now. Today on this
um
episode of Julia and the Green Screen, you should be able to see me. Yes, and look at the t-shirt. Nice t-shirt, right? Where did I get all that?
oh my goodness. Yes, very good.
So, thank you everybody for coming. We're happy to have you here. It's awesome to have you here. We're excited for another one of these nice, fun live stream hangouts. And today is kind of a little bit of a special one. So we had a couple weeks ago, we had a guest in our stream. Lace Pendragon is her name on Twitch, but I think it just, excuse me, I think it's just Lace on her Twitter. But she's also a composer, and we were kind of discussing the music business and then a little bit about the video game industry for what little of it that I know. And yeah, so today we're going to kind of get another little cool thing. And this is related to, I think if you were on Julie's pre stream, you'll know. We have hopefully a couple of guests coming on from the Classic Gamers Guild with us. Rick, Anna, and potentially Paul, which would be awesome. They are the hosts of the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. And if you have missed it, they did a podcast with Ken Williams, who is the founder and CEO of Sierra. Although you might say that Roberta is responsible for its initial success and takeoff because from the podcast I got that Ken really wanted to make his Fortran compiler that he never got to make and release and sell. So instead, we had Roberta made Mystery House and completely altered the trajectory of on. I think it was just online systems at the time, which eventually became Sierra. And Mystery House was a physical commercial release, which is great. Well, I guess they all had to be physical in 1979 or whenever that came out. And that was pretty much the first graphic adventure game ever. It's not the first adventure game, but it's credited as the first graphical adventure game ever,
Hmm.
and it was for the Apple II. And I think later they may have ported it to other systems, but that was it. Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about some clips that I thought were really interesting. It is a long podcast, but I recommend you listen to it anyway, or maybe listen to it in chunks. This is the podcast link there. There's also a YouTube link. I actually just listen to these things while I'm doing my walks in the neighborhood or whatever. Um, and yeah, it was really great and really informative. And as a special guest on the podcast, because it was initially just supposed to be with Ken Williams, Roberta showed up, and she is kind of, I don't know if I want to use the word notorious, maybe infamous for not giving interviews. She doesn't do a lot of them. So it was really awesome to see that, or not to see it, but to hear it. And I don't know if anybody else thinks this, but do you think she sounds almost identical to the lady who plays Clara Clayton in Back to the Future 3, Doc Brown's wife?
Huh.
I feel like she does. I think her name's Mary Stiebenberg or something.
Steenbergen, yes.
You know her?
Well, not personally, but I don't know her enough to know what her voice sounds like.
Her voice, when I heard that voice, I was like, oh my gosh, that's her.
I think she sounds a lot like Laurie Cole, actually.
Interesting. I really swore it was Roberta Williams. I think they're the same person because we can't see her. So it's possible Roberta Williams is also a famous actress in addition to a famous game designer and company founder. But what was really interesting to me is that Ken was talking a lot about the business side of it, which was not something that I think is often focused on. Usually we focus on the design, the designers of the games like Corey and Lori, Al Lowe, Roberta, obviously, Josh Mandel, and any of those kind of names that we have, the two guys from Andromeda, let me not forget them, that became synonymous. But Ken was really responsible for kind of making sure the ship kept sailing forward, and that was what he talked a lot about in the podcast. And I know I have a bunch of questions for him, but that's cool. We'll get to those later. Anyway, we're here to do that tonight as kind of a special thing, but we're also going to be doing what we always usually do, and that is making music for the Crimson Diamond, which is an EGA text parser based in the style of a game from 1989, or the SCI game engine that Sierra created. And is that right?
I just remembered I didn't send you the trailer.
That's okay. That's all right. You can play it, and I have a screen with you only anyway, so it's cool.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're here to do. We're gonna make some music. We're gonna pester each other and hopefully, hang out and answer some questions and discuss some things with you guys today. That would be the goal. So that's what we're going to do today. And hopefully shortly we'll have Rick and we'll have and or Anna in the chat very shortly. So can we maybe play, do you want to play or you just kind of played the intro, didn't you?
I played the trailer. I didn't show any of the in-game stuff.
That would be cool. We could show a little quick in-game stuff. For anybody that's new joining us, well, first of all, welcome. We're happy to have you here. Second of all, check this out. This stuff is pretty cool. It's an adventure game called The Crimson Diamond, being made in Adventure Game Studio, which is a modern engine for making games that don't feel super modern, right? They're not high-end 3D, although maybe there's a way to tweak it and get 3D going on in there. But that's what the engine is that we're I say we very loosely because really I'm just making noises and bothering Julia. So whenever I say we, just assume that's what I'm really saying. If you want to call me a liar, you can. Hugo 4, yeah, right. Thank you for the follow, Elusive Goalie. Interesting name, right?
Okay, the only thing about me sharing my screen to show gameplay footage is that we won't be able to hear the audio, I don't think.
That's okay. Thanks for the follow, Cosmic Void 3. Welcome to the stream. We love the shirt and the hat, right? I'm just representing here right now. Okay, let's jump off me and jump onto Julia. And this is... Oh, we can hear it.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, it's a little crackly, but we can definitely hear it.
Do you think I should turn it up, or what?
No,
what is it going to interfere with?
I think it's cool. I think it's a perfect volume, for me anyway. The chat, I suppose, can answer. It's not.
Oh, you're cutting in and out for me, actually.
So maybe lower it a little bit?
Okay, I'll try lowering it.
A hair distorted.
How is that?
What's up, Slat? What's up, Kisai? It sounds too quiet. But that's
okay,
cool.
I'll pump it back up.
I wouldn't even worry about the sound too much at this moment. We're going to hear plenty of that anyway.
Okay, so I don't know. Should I go through the actual intro bit?
Kima BG says, if anything, it's a little loud.
Oh. All right, well, perfect.
Jojo the pianist. Hello, Dan. What's your approach when scoring a room or an area in the Crimson Diamond? Well, guess what? We're going to go right into that, and we'll talk all about that on stream today. Jojo
Great.
the pianist. It's not an easy question to answer, otherwise I'd just give you an answer right now.
Well, I mean, you could briefly discuss your direction that you took for this beautiful theme song.
Okay, that's a good question. So let's talk about the theme song quickly. So I just wanted to kind of set the mood. Julia actually had music in there that was a folk song, a Canadian folk song that was a kind of a
Yes.
placeholder. Although she probably didn't think of it was a placeholder, because when she started working on this game, we didn't know each other. So that's a
Mhm.
whole nother story. But when I started working on this, I just tried to immerse myself into the feel of what I thought would work. And obviously the MT32 is really cool in that it gives us the sound of 1987, 88, 89, but it's very restrictive in terms of what I can and can't do with it. So the only thing really that I've done, this is mostly, I would say, authentic MT32. The only thing that I've really done is cleaned up the audio just a little bit. And that's mostly related to the mixing and the mastering of it. Maybe I tweaked a little bit of the high end or low end, but it's very very subtle. It's not a lot. Most of it is authentic MT32, and the theme was kind of composed. There's actually a whole nother section I've envisioned for it. I don't think I'll do it because it was really like a drastic departure from what you hear here. I wanted to do a full
really?
key change. Oh god, yeah, it would have been a little too nuts though. I
Well,
think it
discuss
works
it a little
as
bit. I'm
is.
curious.
I probably have in one of the previous streams, and you can always go back and watch these. The links that Stream Elements, the bot, just posted, will give you a link to Julia's YouTube, which is youtube.com/c/Julia Minamata. And that will have all the replays of our previous streams. There is a previous stream where we were talking about the theme a little bit, and I think the ending section might have been in there. And you may even hear little pieces of things that made it in or didn't make it in. But I would say, Jojo, the focus of what we're doing is, the focus of what I'm trying to do is make the immersion kind of the most important thing, so that I create music that's memorable but also doesn't take you out of the game. And what's easy about that in a game like this, there's no voiceover, there's not much in the way of sound effects to speak of. I'm not dealing with footsteps and distance related audio and filtering, to try and emulate, all kinds of crazy stuff like you would do in a modern game. Since this is set in 1988, and since it doesn't make sense to have voiceover in a game like this, it gives me a lot of freedom. And Grundislav, Francisco Gonzalez, has talked a lot about. He's like, man, I bet you the composer of my game is jealous that you have all that freedom and all that room. And in a way, that's true. So yeah, there's a flute in there. There's a flute instrument, I should say, in there. Slap bass. We did have a nice Seinfeld episode. There's probably a clip of the Seinfeld bass on there somewhere. What else? A jazz organ solo. Yeah, I don't know if we had any jazz organ solos yet. We should though. And Bill Kuhn
So
says
what was the departure? Everyone wants to know.
the departure for the theme.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember. I just remember that abstractly it's in my head that it was like going to go to like some other key. What's this? What song am I thinking of? It's probably Forrest Gump. There's like a strange key change in that song, in the theme song to Forrest Gump. Have you ever heard the feather theme? It's Alan Silvestri. He composed that, so there's some cool stuff. Anyway, I don't know. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is. I have it somewhere. We could play the draft if I can find it. I don't mind. What's up, Duck with Shades? Deluxe Tux wants to hear the draft. That's fair. That's fair. The trailer music attract me and make me want to know more about the soundtrack in this game. Well, that's awesome. That's really awesome. That's kind of the goal. Like I said, I wanted to create a memorable theme. So I wanted you to kind of. It's hard to toe the line between memorable and annoying because they're kind of the same thing sometimes. But oh God, I wonder how it would sound on a PC speaker. Well. So I did a little piece of this in Pico 8. And the Pico 8 actually sounds pretty close to what you'd get on a PC speaker. Maybe it's a little more NES than PC speaker, but Did you hear that? Did I send that to you, Julia?
You only sent me, I think, a bar or so, and
Yeah,
it sounded just
that's all I did.
okay.
It was a lot of effort to get that one bar,
I
but it
see.
was cool. And I don't know, maybe I can share it if I can find the thing. It may be on my Surface Pro. I'm not too sure, but we'll figure it out. I got too many dang computers down here, like Bill Kuhn.
And from my perspective, in terms of giving Dan direction for the music, is I'm not a musician and I don't have the language to talk about what I want, but I try to give him as much information as possible, because when I'm working, that's what I like. I like getting as much information as possible. So Dan had the placeholder music, and I sent him the rest of the music, the MIDI Canadian folk tunes, to give him an idea of the stuff that I already kind of liked. And I told him, we want it to be we want it folk tuney, we want it to sound kind of isolated, we want it to sound frontier, we want it to sound Canadian, we want it to sound, all these, even maybe down to potentially instruments we might want to include. Nothing, advanced or anything like that, just simple instruments that you might find in a town that, maybe wouldn't have big brass section or something.
Right, and maybe also just as much as important to include certain instruments, it's important to exclude other instruments.
Yeah, exactly.
We hear stuff, we play stuff every once in a while on the stream, and we're like, yeah, that's too Space Quest. This is not.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no
and
wizards.
Roland MP32 doesn't. The sounds can, it might have to say, it might say, oh, this is a kind of instrument it is, but it might not necessarily sound like that kind of instrument in the Roland MP32.
Right.
So. Yeah, so that's another aspect of it too. And also the other facet of the music and the sound is, it is a mystery game. It's also it's actually more specifically a cozy mystery game. So I don't want the music to ever be too scary or too tense feeling, at least in the beginning. If there's a ramp up, there may be a ramp up, but especially in the beginning, I want people to settle in and feel comfortable, and but with a bit of intrigue in there too. So. That's kind of the brief I gave Dan before he went off and did this, which is kind of amazing. So hopefully I did a good job.
Yeah, no, I think you did, and I think it's important for me to listen to the game designer, whether Julia will say things like, well, I don't know anything about music, so you just do it. But I still have to listen to what she's saying and try to incorporate or maybe even translate what she says into what I consider to be musical terms. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I feel like my own experience as a freelance illustrator kind of gave me that perspective too, of when I have a job with somebody and they might not necessarily know a lot about illustration or what they can even request or ask about. It's my job to kind of meet them halfway and fill in those gaps that they might not understand, and try to translate what they're asking for into something that I can parse.
Yeah. I think it's the same. I think the same thing happens with music, and when we're composing for somebody else, it's the same deal. We're trying to translate what somebody says that doesn't have experience in that field. Like if I asked Julia to make art, an artwork for something, it would be tough because I don't really know a lot of the terms. I would just say, yeah, make something cool and then use some dithering. Like that's not enough. You need a little more description than that.
Yeah,
So.
what I like to ask people is, if they're unsure, I'd like to ask them about examples of stuff they like, particularly, in my portfolio. Just pick out stuff that you like from me so I know what, if they can't say, they can actually just show. So that's what I tried to do with Dan with the sample pieces too.
By the way, how do you do that? Is there like a certain amount of can you send your portfolio to people, or is it more they're just looking on your website or something like that?
Yeah, just looking on my website,
Gotcha.
They can just copy and paste that stuff pretty easily.
Gotcha. That's
and just
cool.
send, and also just anything they can think of, like stuff that they like, that they think resembles or has the same kind of feeling that they're looking for. And so just any amount of information. I like getting a lot of information, because then that helps me kind of be more restricted. Oh yeah, this is the old version of the Royal Ontario Museum piece that we're working on at the art stream. So it's actually gotten way further along than it looks like here. And so next Tuesday, we'll be hopefully working on that. I actually saw a great sky in A Quest for Glory 2 Let's Play, and so I'm going to steal some of those ideas on how to render the clouds in a blue sky. So we can get into that.
Was that a Douglas Herring game?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
It was the one
there
where
you go.
he had sort of the most hand in.
Okay,
And
in the artwork.
yes, you really get his stamp on that one.
Interesting. So let's point out quickly, just in case you think Julia's a suspect artist, this art is at best suspect because it's all placeholder art.
Yeah, so the idea of the art streams is that I'm going back and I'm going to fix all this stuff. I'm going to refine it down to what the actual in-game art looks like. So that's what's happening now. Although we've been stuck for the past few months on that one exterior shot, which we'll see again really soon. This shot, we've been working on this shot for quite some time on my streams, my solo streams.
But it's much further along than this.
We're going to work on the other stuff.
It's much further along than that. So you're seeing basically the entirety of the intro at a high speed because Julia always likes to have Nancy sprinting.
Oh yeah.
She wants to make sure that we're exercising as well. And Irreverent Pixel pointed out something cool that he or she says, I tend to get temp cues for my music work, like examples of what they want in a particular spot. And I find Barbara's Adagio for strings unfortunately appears all the time for sad music, so not really helpful. Well, I love Barbara's Adagio for strings, but yes, I know what you mean. It's totally one of those songs that you're going to see all the time. But that's kind of, in a way, I treated what Julia had there as temp cues. And there may be in previous streams you'll hear some temp stuff or some previous music. And especially if you listen to some of the old interviews that Julia did. She did one with Matt Barton that'll have some of the older music. Did you guys do a Let's Play?
Yeah, Matt did a Let's Play, and then I kind of sat in with him and oh, no, did he? I feel like he did.
Yeah, I feel like he did.
Yeah, I feel like he did. And I think on the YouTube channel that I put the VODs on, one of the very earliest videos I put up was the trailer, but the trailer with the old placeholder music in it. So if you want to see that one, it's definitely still there.
Yeah, so you could kind of compare and contrast if that's what you want to do. But yeah, Irreverent Pixel makes a really important point because most of the time, and we've actually talked about this on another favorite streamer of mine, Dr. Mikachu. Oh, thank you for the follow Grizzleby. Anyway, on Dr. Mikachu's stream, I've brought up the point, the phrase demoitis, or the word, I guess. Demoitis is where the client will have Barbara's Adagio for strings and say to Irreverent Pixel or to myself, I have to have a song that sounds exactly like this. And we're like, okay, so you've tied our right hand, you've asked us to stand on one foot and cover one eye. And that's kind of, instead of being able to use all our facilities, we have to do that. But there's freedom within that too. So I mean, that's kind of the challenge. And then sometimes the challenge is to see if you can push the producer of the TV commercial or show or cue, or the game designer, or whoever you're working with, the director of the film, to try to push them in a direction to kind of get more along the lines of what you think will be stronger. And sometimes there's really subtle ways to do that, and sometimes there's not so subtle ways to do that. I think almost like it's almost like you present them 3 options, knowing that you want them to pick one option, so you present them in a way that you're going to influence them to pick the one option. I mean, I'll do that from time to time.
Oh, we do that in illustration as well.
Yeah,
so what we do is
choice,
if they want 3 sketches, we'll submit, 3 sketches. One of them will be way more finished than the other 2.
That's smart. You could also do that with music. You could kind of mix the other 2 crappy and then mix the last one really nice.
Yeah, these are trade secrets.
There's some magic to it, to be honest. There really is. It's like bluffing in playing cards, like if you're poker. I don't think bluffing works, by the way, in poker. Anyway, no, not really.
It doesn't work for you, or just in general?
Well, if you ever watch poker?
No. Well, I used to actually quite a bit, but no, not anymore.
Yeah, those guys aren't really bluffing. Most of them are just doing mathematical calculations. Bluffing doesn't really work until your head's up. And then even then, it's kind of the luck of the draw, I think, at heads up.
It backfires and they end up wanting the one that you don't want them to pick?
It could. And in music, what oftentimes happens, the track I love is never the track everybody else loves. It's like something else. So,
So Gusak PT asks, do I work with music playing in the background? And actually, it kind of depends what I'm doing. If I'm doing writing, then yeah, if I'm doing the writing, it will be sort of instrumental stuff. I actually have a problem with listening to music in the background that has lyrics because I just end up singing along and I get distracted. So I tend to, when I'm working on like programming stuff, I'll just have some YouTube video that I've watched a billion times in the background that I can tune out as I want to, and when I need to tune back in because I'm getting bored, I've got that to listen to. But if I'm working on some programming problem I'm having a lot of issues with, I actually turn on the Colonel's Bequest soundtrack and the Dagger of Amon-Ra soundtrack to get me in the right like focused space. And as well, if I'm writing dialogue, I'll turn those on as well to get myself in that right mood for it. And that's kind of what I do. I have a hard time just working with stuff on in the background unless it's something I'm already extremely familiar with, because otherwise my tendency is to just focus on that thing.
Same. I can't do anything. I can't even read a book with music playing or something like that. It's impossible. Certainly not compose with other people's music playing in the background. That's impossible.
We're going to come up to one of Dan's more recent creations in the game, actually, very soon in the intro.
Excited.
Yep. So it's this chapter marker here. So there's going to be different bits of music for chapter markers. And this first one that Dan made is the start of chapter 1, which is going to be in the demo when I revise the demo and push a new version.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So that's that. That's all fit in now perfectly. And let's see. Were door handles in the corridor not flipped, though? Were they not? The corridor door handles.
We'll have to go back through on the VOD and find out.
Let's see. Doorknobs and stuff. Okay, so that's the one more recent piece Dan did. Also, what we've been developing that Dan sent me too late for me to implement it for this version for the stream is just musical cues when you've achieved some sub progression in the chapter, because each chapter is separated into different little parts. And so when you get to that part, I wanted there to be something that would indicate to the player that they've actually done something, which is really what the sound is really good for. Dan's also designed some point sounds as well. So for instance, if we talk to Kimmy, and that's you can see.
Well, isn't that if somebody subscribes to your channel on Twitch too, right? Don't you get the point noise?
Yes. Yeah. So I've put those point noises in my Twitch notifications too.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's one of the point noises. So that's an indication that yes, you've done something correctly, and yeah, so it'll come up on the notebook that you've talked to Kimmy as well. So in two ways it's indicating progress. And I don't know, Dan, do you want to give them a taste of the waltz? Do I want to show them what that looks like or sounds like?
Yeah. There's a cool little dinner. There's a cool little dinner scene that's that gets set up. Oh, by the way, this Nightbot Discord server, I don't know exactly how to do it because the link, every time I put a link on, it expires after 24 hours. So if you want to join the Discord, just message me. I think it's called Whispering on Twitch. But just send me a message or Twitter DM me and I'll send you a link to the Discord. I just don't want to make it public and always working because there's also bots that are not so good. But yeah, the waltz is a dinner scene that happens later in the demo. And originally we were thinking of doing something crazy like introducing themes every time somebody talked, but we kind of quickly realized that wasn't really quite feasible. But we put in a little song, so you would consider the dinner part a cutscene in a way, but it's a controllable cutscene where you can kind of you can control the pace in case you don't read fast or in case you read really fast or whatever. So that's cool. And yeah, Irreverent Pixel, that's the idea. We're trying to sound very old school Sierra, and Leisure Suit Larry I haven't really played a lot of almost at all. And I didn't play I haven't really played the Colonel's Bequest. The games that I played were like King's Quest 4, King's Quest 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a little bit of 6, a little bit of 7, all the Quest for Glory games except for the 5th one, Those are the ones that I remember. But I played a lot of other games, so I'm influenced by a lot of the sound of that era, not just Sierra, but I'm
Mhm.
aware of how I, at least in my mind, how I think how I think it should sound. Yeah, yeah, Furroy. I think this is like a Jolt Cola or something. I don't really know what Nancy was taking.
I'm trying to keep it visually interesting because it's a it's visual and sound. So
That's true. It is. So you want to show you want to cheat and jump
yes,
to
yes,
the waltz. Right. So
yes.
Julia has these little warps built in, but they're not in the demo.
No,
These
so
are just
don't.
for
So you can't
testing.
press one. You can't enter one into the parser and cheat your way through the objectives.
Surge.
Unfortunately.
Surge. I like that. Did you ever drink Surge?
What is it, like a caffeine thing?
I'm
Drink?
not even sure it had caffeine in it, to be honest. But it was like a green ecto
Ew.
cooler color looking thing. And I remember they came to my high school and were just giving it out for free. Like, I don't think you can do that now with
Oh.
high school, but they were literally just giving them out for free. It's like, yeah, hell yeah, we got a bunch of surges.
Oh my goodness. No, I've never actually had a caffeine beverage besides coffee. I've never had a Red Bull.
Are
I've
you
never had
kidding? Holy
what?
cow.
In fact, when I was at PAX East, there was some car giving out it was a Red Bull promotional car, and they were giving out cans of Red Bull, and I didn't take one because I'm like, I don't want that.
Well, you would have been jumping off walls if you had drank one of those things and have never had anything like that before.
Well, I've had coffee, but I mean, how much more caffeine is in those?
They say there's not much more, but I think there's also B12 and guarana or guarana something. The B12 can really get you going if you like some people take B12 shots and that'll give them
Right.
energy.
Really?
Yeah,
I've never heard
there's like a
such a
famous
thing.
story of Madonna giving Justin Timberlake a shot in the butt because at a recording session he was tired. She gave him a B12 shot.
Oh gosh.
Exciting
Oh gosh.
times.
Okay, so here's the waltz. We're gonna get into that now.
Swalt is
It's
giving
very.
him indigestion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I should play this at a reasonable pace this time. Oh yeah, and there's lots of sugar in those drinks too, which I don't like very sugary drinks myself. But also, they don't taste very good either,
The
do
Red
they? Those
Bulls?
Red Bull things.
You
Yeah.
know what I prefer is the Monster 0 calorie or 0 something energy drink, the white one. That one's pretty good.
Hmm.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
Cosmic Void.
I don't tend to have too much trouble staying awake.
I have a
When I
ton
need
of
to
trouble staying
sleeping.
awake. Oh man.
Do you?
You guys see
Well,
me
yeah,
on
you got all
stream
kinds of stuff.
sometimes. I'm like, it's not that it's not. I don't know what it is. It's just it always. I have the problem all the time, and I even have one of those sleep machines, and it doesn't help.
Oh, I see.
All kinds of stuff. So I don't know. It's really bad for your digestion. Interesting.
Hmm.
Kisai Tenshi. So I use pop and soda interchangeably. So here's the funny thing. If you live where I live now, which is like the New York tri-state area, downstate area, they don't use the word pop, and they look at you funny if you use the word pop.
Hmm.
And I used it when I moved here. And they were like, what are you talking about? It's not Midwest only, it's West Coast as well. We definitely say it on the West Coast.
We
'Cause
say pop in Canada.
Yeah. Well, you're Toronto. I guess no. Toronto's really East Coast, even though you're not exactly on a coast. You kind of are. I mean, you're Western New York essentially, right?
What?
You're not far from Western New York.
I guess not.
How far are you from Niagara Falls?
Yeah, like an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
2 hours.
That's
Yeah.
Western New York. Here it's 3 a.m. Holy cow. Jojo the pianist,
Wow.
where are you? London?
Oh yes, I recommend coffee. I endorse coffee for Jojo because of Jojo is awake for the stream.
Amberseen, where are you? that you call them all cold drinks. Interesting. Vienna,
Ooh.
Austria. Okay, I've been to Vienna a few times. Ah, New Orleans. So what are you? Are you Mountain Time or are you on the same? Are you on Eastern Time as well? I don't know. Central Time, okay. In the South, all I can't speak. In the South, all soft drinks are Coke. Bubblies. Yeah, but that's
Tonda.
Probably just Tonda because he's special. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was watching some of Tonda's stream last night. If anybody doesn't know, Tondagasa also streams. He streams a lot of different games, and he was streaming a new game last night, which was kind of a cool little racing game. It looked really good, and I don't know how the controls were. It didn't look arcadey as much as the game looked arcadey. The controls looked like they were more involved. But that game looked really fun. I'm not even sure what it was called, but it was really cool. And it's not an early access, but I think he had like a beta copy that he was playing. So if anybody, I should be able to do this now. If anybody wants to go check out, there we go. Like the shout outs work.
Yes, there you go. Congratulations, Dan. In fact, I almost forgot that there was another. Well, I talked about there being 3 additional original tracks that you made for this, and so there is the eavesdropping piece that we haven't even listened to yet.
There's more. There's also the well, I guess it's not finished. The ragtime piece. There's a ragtime bit, and then there's like almost a full ragtime song, which isn't technically done, but that should be playing with the REO touring wagon also in the intro.
Yes, exactly. But here's the eavesdropping music that Dan's composed. This one, I actually haven't listened to it in a really long time because I've been working on new stuff. So I don't know if we're 100% on it yet or not. Let's listen. And actually, the sound is so low for me, I can't even hear it. So I'll have to listen to this.
We can hear it.
Okay, good. That's the important part.
I like it. I don't think we should add
you do.
to it. I think it's pretty cool. It's understated. Exactly. That's the goal here. I think it works pretty well.
All right, I'll have to take another listen when we're finished tonight.
Oh, thank you, Amberseen. Thank you, Slat. Tonda. You know, and the other cool thing that we might be able to do with this song is maybe different points in the game it can start in different places, or we can use the same exact music and swap the instruments around. And that's kind of a cool way of getting different sounds. They speak pretty fast. Must be some good booze. No, if it was good booze, they'd probably speak slow, right?
They're drinking Red Bull.
He loved Crimson. Then again, he didn't know any better.
Dan, that's perfect.
Probably not a Jewish grandmother.
You gonna do the voiceover for this?
And that's why this game doesn't have a voiceover. Yeah, they would slur their words, right?
Oh, come on, do this one, Dan, too.
Whereas I remembered our real home back in England. Well, she's from England? I got to do an English accent.
It doesn't matter. She grew up in Ontario. It's fine.
Crimson couldn't compare.
But she held on to the accent.
Have you any children, Albert? Certainly not.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. So, do you really think that... do you think there are really diamonds here? Because if there are, I'm going to get my fair share, no matter what. How soon will you know? I cannot say, madam. Tomorrow morning I will begin my field work. My superiors wish me to be thorough. I may be here a while. Well, I hope you know sooner than... Ugh, I can't do this. It's too hard. This is not what I do. English lady again. Okay. Well, I hope you know sooner rather than later. I've never liked this place, and now I have to watch that harlot fawn all over Evan. It sickens me watching him get so easily manipulated by her. Then again, he's never been very bright. So wait, why doesn't... Evan doesn't strike me as somebody who would have an English accent.
Was born in Ontario.
Oh, okay.
Nessa was born in England, and she had to make the...
Okay, there we go.
She's
Good
the
night.
older sister.
Good night, Madam Master Shaw.
All right, so this is
But
the
Nancy
actually
would be
there are a
tough
few other
'cause
pieces they can show.
Nancy would be tough. I don't know how I would voice Nancy. Julie would have to voice Nancy.
I've done her for the Steam Summer Game Festival. I did do kind of like a let's play of the intro, this part, and
You read it in character?
no, I just read it like my normal voice.
Oh, well, I think that works. I think that works for whatever reason. And scene. Oh, God.
You're hired.
You want to know what's funny is that I told Julia that we could play a couple of videos that I did that I acted in, but neither of the videos or neither of the movie, they were student films, and neither of them have any dialogue. They're silent. But I think my buddy who did them took them off YouTube because I couldn't find them. Thank God. They're not good.
So you mean I can't use them against you anymore?
Well, you could if you could find them. Maybe some Google foo you could find them, but I don't know. Anyone who plays this game's... Oh, ouch. We didn't hear the music there, though. I don't know. Did we do... we did the Death Ditty for there, right?
Yeah, it didn't work?
Well, it might have worked and we just didn't hear it. Anyone who plays this game always gives her a southern drawl because of Laura Bow. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I didn't hear it. So I guess maybe it's just not... It's probably not the game. It's probably just the stream.
I think... It's a shame. That should work.
I heard something very faintly. You did, Slat. By the way, Slat Studio, let me shout you out because, dude, that was a great piece of little artwork you did. It was like I think it was somebody's podcast logo or something. It looked really great. It looked really great. On first glance, I thought it was EGA. I had to look at it again. I was like, oh, no, this is VGA. There it is. Yes, the Adventure Game Geek logo. That was pretty cool.
Hopefully it didn't blast your ear holes.
Weird. These are all kind of at a different volume level. Like I heard that barely. We'll see.
I'm going to blame the musician.
I would too. Thanks, Jojo the Pianist. No, Jojo the Pianist, I have an interesting story about Vienna. So I was there in 2012, and I remember this. Oh, please link the pic, Slat Studio. Please do. I thought it was a really nice pic. I was in Vienna, and I was at a hotel, and I'm sitting there with probably security, maybe one of the road manager or somebody, and I'm playing the piano that's in the lobby. And I'm just sitting there playing. Somebody comes over to me and tells me, you can't play the piano. Somebody that worked at the hotel. And I was like, really? And, of course, security starts, yelling at the guy. And I'm like, it's cool. It is what it is. But I'm like, this is like one of the classical music capitals of the world. This is the birthplace. At least maybe he was Salzburg. But this is Mozart's home country. Like, what? Like, what do you mean I can't play the piano here? I mean, it's one thing if it was like I'm just going up there and banging on it. But at that point, I was touring the world with an artist as their pianist. I do understand a few things about how to play the piano. So I don't know. I hate hotels having pianos and then telling you don't play them, stupid. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if you can't play. I get it. But that is actually my job. Like, they would potentially hire me to do that. I mean, not in Vienna so much. But that was my first experience in Vienna, and it wasn't a good one. But there is a hotel there that I stayed at that's magnificent. It's the Sofitel Vienna, I think. And the breakfast area, which is on the top floor of the hotel, has like a 360-degree view of the city. And it's one of the taller buildings. Like Vienna doesn't have a lot of huge, tall buildings. And it's one of the taller buildings in the city. And you can see everything. It's fantastic. So like if you guys are ever travel to Europe and you stay at a hotel, even in a lot of other countries, I would say, not just Europe, other than the U.S., they all include breakfasts with your stay.
Oh, I love that.
And they're really fantastic, some of them. This particular Sofitel, the rooms are beautiful. The breakfast area was really nice. And just the view was amazing. I feel like, too, I remember them having the best orange juice. But anyway, that was my first experience there. It was not at this hotel. It was at a different hotel. It was some kind of, classic-looking older hotel. I'd have to look up in one of my itineraries to find the name. But yeah, that was my first experience. My later experiences were better. And the shows, of course, were great. So, it was kind of like, okay, so I can't play for the 8 people here in the lobby, but you're going to let me play for 60,000 tomorrow. Okay, I get it. Cool. See you later. Check out them tidy whities. He has a lot of underwear to unpack. He's British. He's clean. Very clean.
He's Belgian.
Yeah, that's what I said. Belgian.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, outside. You can't go outside in the demo, though, can you?
No, you can't.
Yeah.
But I tend to when we're streaming, because this is not the demo copy. This is sort of like a working copy.
This is what do you call it? Development build.
Yeah, so I can teleport myself outside, and I will sometimes just to amuse myself and the people watching, the benefit of the people watching. Because this is the stuff that you don't really get to see when you get the demo.
Yeah, for what I thought OD was overdose. No, that's just death. You type death, and that's it for her. And Aphoroma says he found a bug in the upstairs balcony. I thought we fixed that, right?
I thought so too, but apparently, yeah, I know exactly the one you're talking about. Actually, let's go back upstairs, because I know it's this weird one where I think if you open the door here, yeah.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't fixed it yet.
Spider Woman. So there is some awesome stuff, going on like that. Spider-Man, Spider-Woman. Proto-Man 16. Oh, DJ Mega Hammer, Donovan, what's going on? In the other side is better. Oh, really? There's a bug there too?
Oh, it is? Okay, let's do that too. So you have
this.
Someone asked about is this Poirot, Gusac PT? It is definitely based on Poirot as a Belgian, for sure.
But he has a British accent in that show too, doesn't he?
Probably because I don't know, inaccurate.
I like that actor. He's a good actor.
Let's see the other side. Yeah, I thought I fixed this, but I might have mixed up my versions or something. Oh no, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Nice one, Aphoroma. Do you have Julia's Twitter? Do you mind, messaging her about any of this stuff? Anytime you go, and anybody, this goes for anybody. If you find anything in the demo, please let us know, because
please let us know.
We're not trying to make it fun. Well, that one's pretty cool. Maybe you should leave it, but we're not trying to do that.
I did not know that happened. That's fantastic.
Keep it in the game. And Jojo says, I'm not from Austria, but I can say sometimes Austrians are strictly to the applied rules. Maybe this is the reason for your experience. Yeah, I don't know. That was the only one I had an issue with. But otherwise, I have nothing against the people of Austria or the country. It's a fantastic place to visit, beautiful. Just don't stay at that whatever hotel I stayed at. Stay at the Sofitel Vienna. It's beautiful. Very nice.
See, maybe that's just an efficient, time-saving way to get back downstairs. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's the escalator. Did they have escalators in 1914? I don't think so.
Yeah, they might have.
I guess maybe.
Oh, no. We're going to go back here. So my question is, do you want me to show what we were going to be scoring, what the plan is tonight?
That would be awesome. Yeah. That would be great.
What's that?
That would be
great. Okay,
great.
so let's do that. So I'm going to warp us to that. So it's another chapter heading, and it's not one you'll find in the demo either. It's the very next morning, and we won't spoil what happens at the end of the demo, but the very next morning, you're supposed to be heading back to the train station. So I can warp us to that one. So you might have noticed that that now we have daylight coming in through the windows, when in the beginning of the game it's nighttime, so we've got just moonlight coming in and it's a lot darker, at least by the windows. I didn't recolor the whole room or anything, but I like that as a nice touch to kind of help you keep track of day and night in the game. If you're by a window, you can see that it's light or dark.
It's very cool. And also in the hallway, would the candles be dimmer or would they be the same? Or the lights?
No, they're the same.
They're the same, okay.
I did not put those out.
Oh, there's Lace. We were just talking about you. What's going on, Lace?
Hey, Lace.
Thanks for coming. Oh, she's out.
Yeah, she's out. So yeah, so this is the unplayable part of this is not a thing you can do. But yeah, so that's what we want to do. So you've just had this really interesting night of listening in on conversations and having a little bit of a tense dinner, and now you're meant to go back home. And so the chapter says excursions because you're meant to go back home now. And so the chapter opening is that. And so we wanted a little bit. Well, how long was the other one, Dan? Like 7 seconds, 10 seconds?
I think we said 7 seconds and then we kind of went over a little bit. It's more like 10 or 12.
So 7 to 12 seconds of just a little something that would play in the background as you're having that little conversation with Kimmy about, oh, it's time for us to go. And I'm intrigued by this place, but I guess, it's time to head home type of thing.
And I thought it was cool because it's not too much, It's not overdoing it. It's not like the 12 seconds isn't really like getting in your way of the game or anything.
No, it plays in the background anyway.
Yeah,
so it's not
exactly.
a huge deal. Yeah. Yeah, in Cosmic Boy 3, this is 320 by 200 pixels for sure. Yep. The good old traditional way of doing it.
What's up, Jim Plays Games? I think I was lurking in your Twitch the other night. You were playing Subnautica, as I remember. That game looked pretty cool.
But initial thoughts, Dan, of what you might consider for that.
Traveling music is the vibe I get because the title's Excursions, right?
Yeah, and it's a bit of it's morning, but you don't want to leave, but you're supposed to leave, and yeah, it's time to go.
Good question. I feel like more ragtime.
Yeah, of course. That's perfect for me too.
Just because it's travel-y. Is that a word? No. But that's what I feel like it is. Where's Nancy's free breakfast? Well, this particular lodge is actually not in service as a public lodge. It's somebody's house, essentially.
Oh, yeah, nothing here. No dinner, no breakfast.
No free buffet.
Yeah, where's the make a waffle iron thing?
No, well, in Europe, they definitely don't have those. They'll make you waffles, but somebody will actually make them for you. Usually floating, Nancy. Eggs or the egg station is always one of my favorites. But it depends on the country. You know where you'd love the breakfast? Beirut, Lebanon. Well, I was actually in Byblos, but it's right outside of Beirut. The breakfast there was unbelievable. Also, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka had unbelievable food. Unbelievable food.
I'm hungry now, actually. This is wrong to talk about.
Sorry, yeah, this is the wrong thing we should be doing on stream. Hey, a cellar door. Nothing to see here, Bill. Nothing to see here. Jim Plays Games says so many beautiful environments. I agree. That's what attracted me to the game, the visual immediately. Yeah, sorry, Proto Man. We're making ourselves hungry. Oh, man. Slat, did you throw the link in, by the way? To your, I didn't see it. To your logo that you did for Adventure Game Geek? I think Adventure Game Geek tweeted it, and that's how I saw it. I'm not too sure.
Yes, that's how I saw it, too. It was really nice. It's really good work, Slat.
Around the world with Dan and Julia. Yep, that's why she's got to go so fast. Otherwise, we wouldn't get anywhere,
When I was in London for Adventure X, I had a goal that I was going to have a traditional English breakfast.
Ugh.
Really,
Did
Dan?
you like it?
I love it. I love that kind of
Uh,
thing.
it's not for me.
What's not to like about it?
The
What's your
beans, the
problem?
tomatoes, the mushrooms. I usually will eat the mushrooms, but the black pudding, nah, I don't really. The eggs is about the only thing. Oh, and the bacon is really like not what we eat here in the U.S. The bacon is way different.
I don't know. I liked everything on that
Really?
plate. Everything you just talked about, I like. So.
I mean, it depends. I guess it depends on the hotel you're at, but the nicest place I stayed at in London was called the Landmark Hotel.
Hmm.
But usually we stay at the K West Hotel, and I actually like the K West Hotel also. But the Landmark is really, really an exceptional place. A vegetarian English breakfast. Interesting. What's that? That sounds kind of interesting.
Sounds
I'd
like
be
it'd be a
into
lot of
that.
mushrooms and tomatoes
Yeah,
and hash.
I don't
Like
really
all
love
that
the
stuff.
beans or the mushrooms or the tomatoes so much.
Oh
My
yeah,
favorite.
here's another.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just thinking about. I've got another breakfast hotel story.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so what I've noticed actually is in places that get a lot of Japanese tourists, like Banff, Alberta, and Niagara Falls, they in the hotels they'll have like Japanese breakfast, like they'll have miso soup and stuff.
Ooh. Yes, I've
Um,
noticed that in a few places.
it's
I
strange
have noticed
because
that.
I always feel like you'd want to eat the food in the place, but apparently Japanese tourists are not like that. So I don't know.
Australia has a lot of that miso for breakfast. Sometimes they'll have noodles as well in the
Mm,
breakfast. Grilled fish on rice for breakfast. See, now you're
sounds good.
speaking my language. In Sri Lanka, they had spicy fish curry. Who would want to eat spicy food in the morning? Well, I'll tell you who. I would want to eat
I
spicy food in the
wouldn't.
morning.
No, I have oatmeal in the morning. I can't take it.
I could eat spicy food all day. Night,
Ugh.
if I'm about to go to bed, that's not such a good idea. But otherwise, I can eat spicy food all day. I
So
love
Dan,
it.
I'm going to play the chapter opening again for chapter two, and we're going to just take a look at what the dialogue says. You can read it actually out, and then you
Oh
can
God.
maybe we'll help get a feel for that.
Here we
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Chapter 2 Excursions. Okay, Nancy, I'm all ready. Let's go. That's
Aw,
terrible. What is she supposed to sound like?
just normal.
Well, I can't do normal. I'm not a normal person. What? Kimmy comes from Canada as well, right? Is she coming
Yeah,
from?
yeah. She's from BC.
She's from BC. Okay, Nancy. Oh, that's a kind of a dude.
Fine, I
I'm trying to find it
have
here.
very low expectations.
Okay, Nancy, I'm all ready. Let's go.
See, Kisai Tenchi says waffle or pancakes for hotel breakfast. I've had those special those. It's not really a Belgian waffle, but it's the really good waffle. Where was that? Was that Seattle? They had I forget what they're called. They're called something very Belgian. Um, and here's the thing: is Tonda saying what's Dan's motivation,
Oh
and that's
God, we don't
actually
want to know that.
no. I know that's a joke, but at the same time, that's kind of my criticism of a lot of when people do let's plays of these games and they do voiceover for them. It's like they don't actually know what they're
Oh
supposed to be
yeah,
feeling or thinking.
that's not cool. I listen. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna. Well, I'm not currently available for hire as a voiceover actor, and nor will I plan to be. But I wouldn't want to sound like totally stupid because I kind of agree with you. I think some of the Let's Players, first of all, I'm not a big on the cursing on the Let's Plays for no good reason, unless
Hmm.
I would do it if there's a good reason, but otherwise not so. And also, I'd want to be accurate if I was doing it instead of making fun of the game so much.
Mhm.
Unless it's just a really bad game that needed to be made fun of. I don't think this is one of those.
Oh my God, I hope not.
Superman
Um,
64, maybe. Okay, that's a really bad game. It's like as bad as it gets, but there's no voiceover in that, is there? I don't
I
think
love
so.
Let's Plays because I'm not going to play most games, and so I get an idea of the game. But yeah, for instance, this line, how would they know how to say it necessarily, right?
Well, you'd have to read as much of the little background that you get because Kimmy likes to talk a lot on the train in the intro, right?
Oh, Nancy likes to talk a lot on the train in the intro.
But but doesn't Kimmy talk as well a lot?
Oh yeah, they have a conversation. Yeah,
Yeah, they both like
and
to
she always
talk.
talk about verbs, exactly, Kisai Tenchi.
So I saw a
But she
cool.
could be saying, okay, Nancy, I'm all ready. Let's go.
That's
Or
not
she
how
could be
people
like,
from BC talk.
yeah, exactly like that.
They talk like I don't know. More Canadian.
More Canadian.
Yeah, you're like it's pretty tough to tell Julia's Canadian just by the way she talks, I
Oh,
would say.
really?
I think so. I think so. I don't know. But I saw a cool question from Jojo the pianist. He says, Dan, do you find similarities when scoring/playing for your band compared to scoring the game? No, not really. The only similarity I guess I would find is that I'm thinking of myself as all those instruments in a band when I'm doing composition. But no, playing in a band is very different because I need to play what's supposed to be played. Whereas here, nobody knows what's supposed to be played because it hasn't been invented yet. So you kind of got to come up with it. So it's pretty different. What happens is when I'm playing live, and this has been something I've really missed because I haven't played much live since the beginning of the pandemic. While I'm playing, I'll hear things or I'll hear ideas abstractly in my head while playing a completely different, unrelated song. And then when I get home or when I get to a point where I can write something, I'll put that down or I'll record something that I'm doing. Like at the church, for example, I usually play in a church on Sunday, and a lot of that is just improvised music behind whoever is speaking, the pastor, one of the worship leaders, one of the ministers, whatever. So I'll just play behind them. And a lot of times I'll get cool ideas. The drummer will be there. He'll improvise with me. So I'll take stuff from that every once in a while. I wouldn't use any of that stuff here because the style is very different, but the process is all the same. So, that's kind of how I would think of it. So yes and no, I guess, is the best way to say it, if that makes sense. Let's see here.
Your Classic Gamers Guild is in the house.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Rick,
and
good
Sam
to see you.
Tacky is in the house.
Sam
Nice.
Tacky as well. Hey, Sam.
The Classic Gamers Guild. Are we talking about BC girls? Yes. What's up, Sam Tacky? What's up, Rick? Good to see you guys. And what's AC girls? Where's that? Atlantic City? I don't know. Jim Plays Games says, you can hear entirely different music when you're playing music. In your head, I mean? Yes. Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a little bizarre. I get it. But it's sometimes, I don't know, it's like it's hard to describe. Sometimes I'm on stage, and Sam Tacky, he actually is the only person that really can see our show other than the lighting designer. He's our front of house engineer. But he can see all of us and kind of see what's going on. And since he's seen us for 8 years, he knows how each one of us are feeling or thinking that night, if he can see us well enough, if he's not too buried in the back, and kind of tell what's going on. So anyway, yeah, it's a little crazy. Jim Plays Games. Probably not the best. I wouldn't teach somebody to do it that way, but if it happens, eventually it just happens. I mean, I don't know. I missed Bill Kuhn did some basement archaeology. Yes. What do you say? Recapitulation. Yes. Organizing and sorting all the computer disks and hardware in my parents' basement. In the downstairs bedroom, I examined the 2 old horizontal computer cases we've had kicking around the house for 25 years. The first case is something close to an AT, but is the hull only. Okay. The second case is Dell System 200, a 286 with a hard drive. It boots. Yes. I think I saw you write something about that. Was that maybe it was in Donovan's Discord, in DJ Megahammer's Discord. Yeah, the DIN connectors are kind of annoying when you use that. But yeah, so anyway, Classic Gamers Guild is going to be here with us, and I guess, well, he is here with us, and he's going to help us out with the little audio clips that I want to play. This will be a fun, like, interactive segment for everybody, but hopefully we'll be able to get insider information from Rick, aka Classic Gamers Guild, and Anna, and potentially Paul. I don't know where Rick and Anna, I think, are in the same time zone. Anna's in the Victoria area, and Rick, are you in Vancouver?
It's in Ottawa. Actually.
Ottawa. Oh, so you're totally in a different area. Okay, cool.
Well, same as us now.
Oh, you're in Ottawa now?
Well, no, same time zone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that interview was pretty awesome. That it was long, but it was worth it. And we'll talk all about it in a second. I don't want to get
Yes.
too far ahead of us, but yeah, okay. Used to be in Vancouver, moved to Ottawa a couple years ago. Okay, cool. A bad photograph, so I had to order a second one. Check when it was generated, didn't 5 pin. Nice. That's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely back those hard drives up because there's no telling when they'll just stop working.
Mhm.
I'm kind of in the process of replacing all my old computers with either CF cards, SD cards, or SSD drives. Even the really, really old stuff, I just get converters because they're easier to back up and generally more reliable and not to mention way quieter. Those early like Fireball, Quantum Fireball drives are noisy. Holy cow. You know, we kind of got spoiled with the noise, the lack of noise with all these solid state drives and the high powered liquid cooling and all this stuff. It makes your computer really quiet. I mean, back in the day, you turn that thing on,
Mhm.
it's like a small 747. So anyway, where were we? We were at the chapter beginning music, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we're just kind of going to go over this dialogue and just try to see
Yes.
what
So
we can
why don't
see
you
out of it.
read Nancy?
Sure. Um, I wish we could stay here longer. It's such an interesting old place and such intriguing folks. I don't know.
That's pretty good. I like that. I know what you mean.
Or she could be saying, "I know what you mean," or who knows what she's saying. So like
Well,
a
only
person,
you
the
know,
voice
in
actor would
fact.
know, but like the
Only in
person who,
fact you know what she's saying.
well, exactly. Just,
But the good thing is, it doesn't matter because whoever's
no, it
playing
doesn't.
this game, that's how it's read.
Exactly. Yeah, I kind of love that about it. It's kind of like a book in that way, where you might not actually be sure what it's supposed to be
Yeah,
like.
that's true. That's true.
And in fact, I purposely have a conversation in the demo that you can either see it or hear it, and you might get a slightly different impression with exactly the same conversation, depending on which one you do. So,
Thanks, Duck with Shades. I know you got my back. I can see that you need a minute. I'll meet you at the front door.
thanks, Kimmy.
No
There
problem,
she
eh?
goes.
Oh, sorry. I
Yeah, no
just
problem. Totally.
improvised. I improvised, you know.
Can I do one for me?
Sure.
What a peculiar place.
Game has auto saved.
So that's it. So it's bright and sunny now, and we're heading out. We're like, I guess that's it. I guess that's the end of the adventure. Time to go home. Type of thing.
So they think they're leaving. So really, even though it says excursions, it should almost like it's like a false sense of something because if they left right now the game would be over and the demo would be pretty much the entire game, which it's actually not.
Right.
You know. Yes. Oh, and Bill Kuhn says, "How many classic computers do you have, and what kind?" If I had to list them all, we'd be here all night. I have a lot. I've got some Amigas. I've got an Apple II. I have a old Macintosh. I have a lot of different old PCs, but the oldest PC I currently own is a Pentium class, and I have a 386 and 486. If my buddy Travis sends them to me, they're in Texas. He's going to send. Oh, and of course, I have a Commodore 64. Yes, thanks, Furroy. And I have a lot of Commodore 64 games. Well, let's jump back quickly. Behind me, there's games from all different types of systems, from PC, Apple II, Commodore. What else? There's some Xbox over here, PS2, PS3, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, let's jump back to Julia. So let's see. Wonder what we could do.
Before we get into it, so I don't actually know what the Barber's Adagio sounds like. So can you favor us with a rendition?
No, it's. I mean, yes, but you won't really get the full feeling of it on piano. It's really a string piece. That's the best. Let me see if I can get it. It's a singable melody, but it has some really amazing orchestration. What? I don't know if who mentioned that. Irreverent Pixel, if they're still here, maybe they could tell me what year that was. It was a long time ago. It was like in the 20s, maybe the piece was. Let's jump to composing with both of us.
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to show the conservatory in the daytime because it's the room with the most windows, and it's definitely the most dramatic change from day to night.
Changes the light totally different.
Yeah.
What about when they drop the disco ball down from the conservatory ceiling? Does that change the light?
It's going to be amazing.
I love this sound. Well, I think Barber's in G. I don't know what key it's in. There's actually a really cool hip hop song that sampled it. It's called Paparazzi by Exhibit, way before he had his TV show. That's probably my favorite Exhibit song if you like hip hop. Exhibit Paparazzi sampled the Barber. I don't know what they did exactly. It has like a cool, like, it's just a cool sound. I would play all this stuff on stream, but the problem is as soon as we play it on stream, we're potentially getting a copyright violation. We can either get the stream shut down, or when we put the video on demand, we get a copyright notice, and that's happened twice now on our video.
Three
times.
Maybe.
There you go.
Yeah.
We can link to it. Yeah, I mean, Irreverent. Do you have a good recording? We could throw the YouTube link maybe up for the Barber string Adagio for strings. That would be cool. That's a good idea, Jim.
Mm-hmm. If anyone
right,
has
the
one,
Platoon soundtrack.
Favorite.
Yes, it's part of the Platoon soundtrack. Yep.
So Slash Studio asked me what my thoughts are on the sky being a lighter shade of blue for daytime. And actually, come to think of it, I wasn't actually thinking about what color the sky was going to be, because a lot of these you actually don't see the sky. The only one you're actually really seeing the sky is this one, and it's the cyan color, which in the exterior shot for the Royal Canadian Museum, it's not the cyan color is being the sky. So I don't really know if that makes it different, or if I should change this, because in the Royal Canadian Museum, it's the cobalt color.
Well, is the problem that it would blend into the water then?
The problem here would be, if the sky was the same color as Nancy, she would definitely...
Well, she would blend in too.
Blend in with that. So, I mean, it's the whole EGA issue.
Yeah.
But I probably, because now that, considering I have the whole river done this way, I probably won't change. And also because the way the trees are cyan, so I'm probably going to leave it as it is. And I won't care too much about consistency. It's a different time of day, maybe I can argue.
Slat said he actually meant a different section.
Oh.
In the building?
You meant in the building. Oh, okay, so...
just throw some shrubbery stuff on the background. Yeah, that's definitely an option too.
Mm-hmm. Or just make it, yeah, so this one particularly, I guess I like the contrast here as well, with the darker blue. I actually, come to think, I didn't actually think about what I was doing. That sounds funny. I didn't think about what I was doing.
She's not disappearing though into the couch too badly.
It's true. I mean, if you move around, you're fine.
I mean, pieces of her, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's always going to happen in EGA for sure.
Exactly. The shadows under the table or couch are a nice touch. Nice. Yeah, I agree. Really nice. It just gives you a perfect visualization. And what I like about EGA and low resolution in particular is it makes your imagination fill in a lot of the stuff as opposed to just being
Yes.
able to see it. I think Rick said this on the podcast. He's like, well, as opposed to photorealistic graphics, it gives us a different experience and immersion than we would get.
Yep.
So in a way, when you play, Metal Gear Solid 5, it looks like you're really there in Zanzibar or wherever the different locations are. But on the same token, it doesn't leave much to the imagination, right? It's all there for you. Here now, you have to imagine it because it's not there, I think you could view this as a night scene if you didn't see the night scene already. There's the night version.
Mm-hmm.
And now you still get the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm paraphrasing what you said, Rick, but you said something along those lines to Roberta because she was asking a question. But we'll go into that because I think that's one of the clips I saved. And I believe I have all of you guys asking questions too because I wanted to kind of pose the questions to everybody watching, but also, I wanted to hear what you guys were asking and trying to give background on each little. I only took a couple clips because it was hard to pare down. What the interview is almost 2 hours, or it's about 2 hours. So, but it's great. It's great. If you haven't listened to it, spend the 2 hours. It's worth the 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
And I will not often say spend 2 hours on something. Spend 2 hours on this. Listen to it.
We can do other things while you're doing that too. So.
Yeah. Can we go back to the excursions piece? Because I'd love to.
Of course.
So we were in D flat in the other piece. Okay, so that's roughly where we were. That was a really bad version of that.
Oh, you meant the first excursion, the first piece?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of where we were and then try to give myself another place to go after that. So like I'm thinking of it in a linear fashion. Like there's some music that I did for Empire of Sin that eventually I'll talk about. By the way, that's another video game I'm working on for anybody that doesn't know. Empire of Sin has a release date now. It is a game by Brenda and John Romero Games, and it's published by Paradox Interactive. It'll be out on December 1st. We have a physical release in this country on Switch, Xbox One, and PS4. And then there's actually PC physical versions in some other countries and territories, and I have to look those up, and I'll probably order one for myself because I want physical of everything, as you can see behind me. So yeah, that'll be really exciting. But there's a couple of, I did some music for like the city area when you're kind of walking around in the city. You can hear it on streams with Brenda and different members of the Romero Games team. They stream on the Paradox Interactive. Let me see if I can shout them out. Shout out Paradox Interactive. Yep. And they stream like, it's kind of in the morning for us. Every other Thursday they do it, and it's cool. But you can hear some of the music I did on those streams, even though they turn it way down, because you want to hear them talking. But what I did there, I was kind of like conceptualizing this really kind of bizarre key changes where I had to go through a certain number of minutes without repeating like a root note almost. It's not quite like a 12-tone row. It's hard to say, but I'll talk about it more. Jojo the pianist says, I'd love to see Crimson Diamond in a big box. You and me both. We'll see.
Yeah.
And Jim Plays Games says physical version on PC. Is it a piece of paper with a product key on it? Probably. Who knows? Might be a DVD case with nothing in it.
I'll play the first chapter music again, Dan,
Cool.
for you to refresh your memory.
Cool. Okay. So, that's wrong. It's a little too Titanic, right? Lee says, it feels like something Randy Newman would sing over. Yeah, too many chord changes. Did you ever see the Family Guy where they do Randy Newman? Sorry, my thing got stuck. Your internet was out? Dang. So excursions. So I feel like it's got to be more openish sounding. But without taking us out of the style. And without being Legend of Zelda. Interesting. There's a lot of 1 to 3 movement in this game. In the theme, it's minor to major. In the first little chapter transition, it's major to minor. Sorry, major to dominant 3. So like a secondary dominant. Give me some of those tasty yet very unnecessary chord substitutions. Exactly. Let's see. Slat Studio, thank you for following. Oh, is Anna here? Yes. Hi, Anna. Say that again?
Just in time for me to say I need to go to the washroom, and I'll be right back.
Put on your little ad. Can you? Oh, you can't because you're not on OBS. Oh, well. Maybe I'll come up with a really good thing while you're gone, and then we'll never hear it again.
See if I can figure this out. No, I can't. You're right. I'll just let Nancy. You know what? I'm going to take Nancy to the bathroom too.
This 1 to 3 movement. Gotta go to bed. All right, Alfred, thanks for stopping through. Good to chat with you again. Oh, thanks, ProtoMan16. So all it takes to get good at piano is a lot of consistent practice and then a lot of thought. And also recording yourself and listening to yourself back and kind of analyzing what you've done. Saying, what do I like? What do I not like? What do I need to work on more? A good teacher helps too. first person that told me, I forget who it was, but one of my teachers told me the tape doesn't lie. And of course, you're not going to use a tape now, but just use your phone. Hit voice recorder. It doesn't matter. The quality doesn't matter. Just record it so you can hear yourself back and work that way. And then the next person who really told me, yeah, and listen to Sam Tacky, because believe it or not, he might not be a piano player, but he tells me how to play music better. He's the front of house engineer that I've toured with for 8 years. And he's always telling me, he's like, all right, now the next step is to work on this. Now the next step is to improve this. And it's not always necessarily technique of playing. A lot of times it's the sound, but they're kind of the same thing, because we're at the end of the day, we're trying to get whatever's here into the ears of everybody listening. And a lot of times what happens when you're playing and you're concentrating on playing, sorry, not a lot of times, all the time when you're playing, you do not have the same mental capacity to listen as if you were not playing and simply listening, right? So you want to focus on listening first. The listening, and then if you record yourself, you can obviously listen back and you're like, oh, hey, that's different than I thought that I played that. Interesting. But that's why they say the tape doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. And all the greats have done it since recording was invented, pretty much. Bakiti Kamalo was a bass player that I worked with for a little while, and he's really well known for playing with Paul Simon. Paul Simon actually got him out of South Africa in the 80s. He's famous for playing that backwards bass solo on You Can Call Me Al, but he played on that album. What's the name of the album? I forget the name of the album. The Paul Simon, he played on that, Rhythm of the Saints. He was the one who always told me, listen, just record yourself, because you gotta record yourself and listen to it. And he always wanted me to listen to like Latin piano players and stuff like that, because those guys had amazing rhythm. They're almost like drummers in a way on piano. So yeah, I mean, just following that advice of just recording yourself, it'll help a lot. Yeah, being a musician before audio recording existed was playing on hard mode. In a way it was, and in a way it wasn't, because I do feel that people back in the 1800s for sure were less distracted than we are today. Something along those lines.
Okay, I'm back.
What a perfect message to display. You can't use okay in this game. Oh, thanks, Jojo, for stopping by. And if you want to catch us, we're here every Tuesday from the same time, which is rough your time, but this is the time we're on. We usually start 8 p.m. Eastern on Julia's channel and then jump over. That happens every other Tuesday, and next week Julia will be on at 8 on her channel from 8 to around midnight-ish, doing an art stream. And I'll come bug her in the chat for sure.
Increase the productivity. That's important,
I think that's too, I don't know, it's too something. that's better. That's better. Something like that. Something like that, right? You like that? No? Yes?
That was nice.
Cool. Something like that. Can that come down a semitone? Yes. Whole tone? Yep. No, not that. Interesting. I kind of like that one. Oh, Roberta's here. Hi, Roberta. So I believe somebody asked earlier to expound on how Julia and I met each other, and I'm pretty certain it was Roberta who made that introduction a while ago. It feels like I just met all these people, but it's actually been a couple of years probably by now. You like this key, Sam Tacky, better? F sharp? Yeah, but warmer might work better in this situation. I don't think we need super exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
We could try a couple other keys. No.
Oh, that's nice.
That's the original. That's the key of the theme. So that could work. I like that. I like that. Thank you, Roberta. Yeah, PAX East does feel like forever ago. And that's where I actually got to meet Roberta in person. I got to meet Julia in person for the first time. I got to meet Benj Edwards from the Retronauts podcast, and now of what's the media outlet he's a staff writer for now?
How to Geek?
Oh, yes. Yes. And who else did I meet there? Oh, Dave Gilbert was the first time I guess I met Dave Gilbert here at one of our meetups, and Francisco I already knew. So I got to meet a lot of cool people. PAX East was pretty cool. Oh, Lacey went to PAX West. Yeah, I was going to go this year. I would have gone. Roberta had all kinds of cool stuff planned, but of course there was no PAX West as we know it. So that was too bad. And the PAX West last year, I'm still kicking myself for missing out on that one. But I'm not sure if we were on tour or not during that time anyway. But it is what it is.
Yeah, let's now that we have the gang together, why don't we get into them clip stand?
Sure, you want to do that? Let me just record this little piece quick, and then we'll.
Yes, please do. Yeah, please do. Don't lose that.
Let's see here. Ugh, that's terrible. Can I bring my right hand closer to what? You mean, oh, tell your dad what's up and thanks. That is fun to use the Roland. And we got a really, really cool little clip that I'm going to play in a second. So anyway, let's talk quickly. Our special guests are here. I'm going to save this and just leave it and we'll clean it up later. And yeah, we have two special guests here from the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. And I think, let me see if I have the link here still. Yep. This is a link to their most recent podcast. Thanks, Sam Tacky. Please tell her what's up and say what's up to the kiddies for me as well, even though they should be in bed by now.
Wake them up and tell them what's up.
Don't wake them up. I know what that's like. Don't wake them up. Yeah, so we have two special guests from the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. It's actually not their most recent. They just released another one, I think, today. But they did a podcast with Ken Williams, who is the founder of Sierra, or Sierra Online Systems, whatever you want to call it. It initially started as Online Systems. But it was Roberta Williams who really kind of catapulted them into a household name. Not immediately, but I think not too long after they started, she was the real reason for their success as a company, even though Ken was the business mind and probably kept all the creatives, working on things that products they could actually sell and build a company around. So it was really amazing to listen to that for me. I was a huge fan and am a huge fan of Sierra games. There's plenty of them on my shelf behind me and on my bookcase over there. And I actually used to live east of Seattle. And I used to drive past on I-90. They're one of Sierra's, I don't know what it was. It was one of their locations, big building they had there. And I used to drive past that on I-90 on the way into Seattle. And I think that was their Bellevue campus or Redmond campus. All the heavy software things were over there at the time. Microsoft was a big player at the time. And it's interesting to hear Ken talk on the podcast that he initially thought Sierra was going to be, like a Microsoft competitor. And of course, that's not even really close to what they morphed into. But yeah, so let's talk. We have a couple of clips that I want to play and kind of discuss, not only with just Anna and Rick, but I'd like to extend the invitation to everybody. But I'm under the impression Anna and Rick are going to have some super secret insight for us. And let's see. The first clip I want to play is just Ken talking here.
So we had about 700 developers. And with a group that big, if I saw something, a new sound card, a new graphic capability, I could go to the organization and say, let's go do something cool with that.
So he's basically saying we had 700 developers working for Sierra. So he had the ability to kind of do whatever he wanted. And I think when he says this, let's listen to it again.
So we had about 700 developers. And with a group that big, if I saw something, a new sound card, a new graphic capability, I could go to the organization and say, let's go do something cool with that.
I think he's talking about the MT32. I'm not certain, but that's my guess. And if you ever listen to, there's another talk that Al Lowe did at DragonCon many years ago. Another group I'm affiliated with, the Big Box PC Game Collectors. They have a podcast as well, although we don't get the chance to record it very often. Joel, the guy who runs the group and the YouTube channel, actually filmed Al Lowe talking at DragonCon, and Al Lowe talks about the MT32. So maybe one day we should play that if we haven't already. I think I've talked about it, but we definitely need to play that.
Yes, that sounds awesome.
But he talks about the process of how they did it. And Al and Ken are still friends to this day. There's a clip at the end. He says he's going to go golfing with Al Lowe at the end of the podcast. I'm not trying to spoil the whole thing, but 700 developers. Yeah. So maybe Rick and Anna can kind of fill in what that was. Like they'll just maybe give a little backstory on what he was talking about. I think he was simply talking about the company and the size, how great, how large they grew, kind of so quickly. So, Blaholtzen, what's up? Was working on reducing file sizes. Ooh, what were you? What software were you working in? So anyway, that I thought he was talking about the MT32, or I at least that was my impression. And let's see here. I want to try to do this in order, but view details. Why can't I see the date?
So at the time,
here we
Sierra
go.
had, so it wasn't 700 developers all in one place, was it? Or were they all in?
So he talks about that later in the podcast. He basically
Okay.
says that they were all spread all over, and I do think he was obviously counting the MT32 in that statement. Yeah, cool. Yeah, the whole Sierra company was a bit over 1,000. Yeah, so I think what he had was a whole his idea, there's a thing in the podcast that he says he didn't want to use more than 100 developers in one location.
Okay.
And maybe Rick and Anna can talk about that, but my impression was, let's go back to the screen, by the way. You can go back to you, Julia, if you want.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can. Let me just unshare. And then you have to do whatever you do to fix it back again.
Yes,
whatever that is.
So I don't know if that, okay, yeah, they were always pushing towards the forefront of all technologies, especially music. So I'm disappointed I missed out on that magic for so long. Yeah, well, we all did. I certainly did. I didn't have the ability to buy a Roland MT32 at the time, and I'm not even sure I knew what the hell it was, other than it was an option in my sound card list. You know, you choose what sound card you have in the setup program.
Which was usually Sound Blaster.
Well, it was a clone of Sound Blaster most of the time. Some of you guys were lucky enough to have legit Sound Blaster cards. I had some Radio Shack piece of garbage that was, it worked, but it wasn't sexy. The MT32 would have been sexy back in the day, you know.
Yeah, it was
Ad
also
lib.
what, $700 you said?
It was, well, there was a couple of, Sierra did a deal where there was like a $595 deal where you could buy, I think you could buy a game in the sound card or something. I have it in one of the boxes. Ken wrote on his own website that two companies influenced him more than any other were Microsoft and Disney. He read every book on those two companies. Yeah. Well, at the time, the internet wasn't such a thing, especially when they started. It didn't exist, really. Or if it existed, it was a government or military product only. And so you had to read books. That's how you learned programming. That's how you learned everything. That's how you learned about people like Walt Disney, Bill Gates. But the interesting thing, he was a contemporary, really, of Gates and Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and all those guys. And I think that he also mentioned something about that he had, I don't know if he had worked with them at all, but he definitely met Jobs, Wozniak, and Bill Gates. Obviously, we're basically in the same town. Like, from where that Sierra building was in Seattle, outside east of Seattle, to get to the Microsoft campus would have taken you 15 minutes. It was not very far away. And Nintendo of America also was right in that area. So this is a story you guys might not know about me. I actually tested games at Nintendo when I was a kid. Did I ever tell you that?
Seriously? No.
Yeah. So I don't remember who found it, but me and my brother and my two cousins would go over to Nintendo every once in a while, and they'd sit us in a room with a whole bunch of other kids, and we'd play all these games. Yeah, we like Super Nintendo was the thing at the time. Nintendo was really done by that time. But yeah, I remember testing what's that, I think it was Battle Clash, which was a gun game, the Super Scope game. I remember testing Hammer and Harry, which never actually released in the US. It did release in Japan, and I believe it released in Europe as well. It's a really fun game. How old was I? I'm not exactly sure, but I'm thinking like I was around 12. What year did the Super Nintendo come out? 91? 90?
So how did you find out about this? Is there an ad in some newspaper or
Probably
something?
because you didn't have any internet. Yeah, I guess it wasn't even beta testing. It was really play testing because we weren't really old enough. We weren't allowed to get paid. I remember that. We weren't allowed to get paid because we were kids. We were underage of, you couldn't be legally working at that age or whatever. I don't know if it was a poster at the mall or what it was, but yeah, so in 91 I would have been 9 years old. It's probably a little after that, so maybe I was 10, 11, 12, something like that.
So how do they compensate you then if they couldn't pay you
So
at
they
all?
gave us, as I remember, they gave us guides, like Nintendo
Okay.
guides and stuff. And I
Hmm.
think I still have some of the guides. We got the Zelda guide. Unfortunately, nothing was like super rare or like prototype or anything like that. Like if I had foresight then, I would have just grabbed a few things on the way out accidentally and but yeah, that's not the way it went. But it was pretty cool. I do remember going in there and playing, but if you want to get really really super nerdy, I remember going there playing one day and couldn't wait to come home and play my PC and play Matrix Cubed by the SSI game, Buck Rogers SSI gold, sort of a gold box game instead of that. So yeah, they gave, like, it wasn't Nintendo Power, but it was like those guides, those top secret passwords. I think they were called Nintendo Players Guides or something like that. Anyway, so yeah, they're all right in that same area. Square was there, Square Enix was there. Um, Everybody was right in that area. Microsoft, Amazon I think Amazon didn't start until what, 98 or 99 or something. Or we didn't know who the hell they were until then. But yeah. Oh yeah, Buck Rogers. I should show it off, right?
Oh, Anna mentioned way earlier in chat that Sierra is always pushing the forefront of technologies, and how with the Roland MT32 that she was disappointed that she missed out on the magic for so long. But I think most of us did, which is why I love the fact that Dan's using the Roland MT32 right now, because we tend to think that the music sounded like the Roland MT32 when we were playing it as kids, but obviously it didn't for like 99% of us. So it's nice to have that for everyone this time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yes. If I recall correctly, my memory does suck for the record. Ken said he invited everybody to their big housewarming party. I think they invited everybody in the industry that they could. Yeah, I remember hearing that. And he said they had like 700 or 800 people at their house. But they were kind of in the middle of nowhere in California, and that was intentional from what I remember. Yeah, the music is, I mean, it would have been unbelievable. In 1988 or 89, you would have been like the man or the woman or whatever back then. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I certainly didn't have any of that. We didn't even have a console at home, so I don't know why I was testing Super Nintendo games when I was never going to be one of the people buying them because I didn't own one, and I was not allowed to own one. More importantly, so we had PCs, and out of date. Yep, absolutely. Let's see.
Rasmus said, I hosted a gaming show on local cable TV a local cable TV station when I was 15. That's awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, do you host local gaming shows now on Twitch when you're 16? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know how old you are, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now I think, let's see here. This is, I'll jump to the next guy. That's
Okay.
cool. The next clip here, and this is Roberta now talking. Now, let's give a little bit of backstory. As I understand it, the interview was specifically to be with Ken Williams, right? And they both had integral, very different roles at Sierra, the company. Yeah, I'm sure you did, Rick, because this is like, who else would you want to talk to but Roberta and Ken Williams? But I believe Roberta was not supposed to be part of the interview. That's the impression I got. And Ken kind of just put her on the spot, and she started talking, and it was great.
Yeah.
So she actually mentioned, we had 2 minutes to prepare for the Roberta segment, which you didn't know about, right? You had no idea it was coming? Not even.
That's amazing.
I love that.
Good work.
So anyway, Roberta comes in and she's talking about a lot of cool stuff. And I just, that's funny, Rick. Yeah, she did like talking and she was really interesting. But she talked about graphics in adventure games. And
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing she mentioned. I think Paul asks a question here.
I can say for a fact, I played King's Quest with my father when I was about 5, and my 5-year-old son has been playing King's Quest with me just this very week. So it's really become a family tradition now that's being passed around all because of what you created.
Yeah. So I think though, since he's so young, and probably isn't as aware of all the super high res 3D, flying cameras and, 3D worlds and all that exist with computer games and video games now. He doesn't know yet, perhaps, because he's too young. So maybe it's good that you get him involved while he's still young before he gets, what's the word I'm looking for, ruined by all those good graphics. And then try to go back and see the old graphics.
Well, there is something that really captures the imagination of the old graphics. Like, there are a lot of independent developers now who are following in the footsteps of Sierra and LucasArts adventure games. They go back to the pixel art. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's really? A section of independent game developers who are really basically mimicking that style, that throwback style.
Mm-hmm. Huh. And do you know why they're doing that?
Because they love Sierra and LucasArts so much, yeah.
Oh, okay. And we want to see these games. We're really interested as fans too. So there is a market out there.
Yeah. So there we go. So that was Roberta, and then you heard first you heard Paul, then you heard Roberta, then you heard Rick, and then Roberta and Anna. So yeah, this is the interesting thing. I think. Well, they've obviously been out of games for a long time, 20 plus years. 20 almost 25 years since they sold Sierra, I think, something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but Roberta says to Paul, well, I don't know, your 5-year-old son, don't let him see all the flying cameras. But guess what? By the age 2, he'd already seen all that stuff. So I don't think it's possible to ruin somebody's interpretation by seeing all kinds of new fancy fangled graphics and these things. But I think there's an attraction regardless of the age you grow up in for the graphics. Yeah, and look what Slat Studio just said. This is exactly the point. I think for her, the graphics were a limitation and weren't thought of as an art form as much. However, she was never the artist on any of the games. Let's point that out. She was the designer, the writer, probably in charge of the overall how the game got put together. But you mentioned something earlier, Julia. You said that Doug Herring had the most creative control as an artist in the game Quest for Glory 2. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. And that game was designed by Lori and Corey Cole.
No, I said for Colonel's Bequest, he had the most creative freedom.
Interesting. Well, that game was designed by Roberta Williams. And that's pretty interesting.
What's interesting, like Slot Studio mentioned exactly, graphics were a limitation. She might not have been doing the art, but she was designing a game around that art. And it's cool when you I got to talk to Doug Herring last year at over PAX West, and even Mark Ferrari over Twitter. And both of those they've been in the industry for decades, and they started and they still are classically trained painters, and they draw. And yeah, for them, going from just, literally limitless colors and then having to be kind of circumscribed by a limited palette like the EGA palette, they did not like it. Doug Herring was very clear that he did not like that palette at all. Mark Ferrari has very little fondness for it as well.
But Mark Ferrari has a lot of fondness for the 256 colors, doesn't he?
I think he likes it more. However many times, 16 times goes into 256. That's how many more times he likes the VGA, I think. And because, for them, it was a restriction and a limitation. So you kind of, for them, it's not something to look back on fondly, but because for us, we only saw what came out of that. For me, Slat Studio, a lot of other people, we just have that fond memory. And so when we go back to that form, we go back to it in a way that, in a more free and liberated way than they had to do it, because we don't have to worry about space limitations. It's all about how it looks and how that makes us feel.
Well, and the interesting thing is you can kind of track certainly Roberta's progress through the time she started with Mystery House, which is literally the first graphic adventure game. And I believe you guys said in the interview something about tricking the computer into displaying those graphics because they weren't really necessarily designed for for that kind of thing just yet. And that's true. Not sure if you're playing this shortly, but Roberta seemed generally confused as to why people wouldn't just make adventures with modern games graphics. Yes, we're going to play a clip like that. Exactly. You're anticipating everything. Your head's in the right place, Rick. Exactly. So yes, and DJ Megahammer also brings up an interesting point. A similar phenomenon with aging rock stars looking back at their classic albums. Well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you, like, making music in the quote-unquote old way is oftentimes preferred, but the budgets aren't a reality to do that now. So it actually went the opposite way in music, where there used to be gigantic budgets and now there's no budgets, and vice versa. The game industry, there used to be no budgets and now you could spend, I don't know, $500 million on development of some games. What is Star Citizen at? They've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm sure GTA was not a cheap prospect. GTA 5 was not a cheap prospect. I'm sure the Gears of War franchise, all these franchises were not cheap. But yes, so let's see. That's what I was talking about, the progression of Roberta Williams in games. Mystery House was the first one. I wish I had these graphics up. We could show them all. And then you get into the SCI stuff, which is kind of blocky EGA. You describe this better than me, but...
Oh, the AGI.
AGI. Sorry, I'm backwards. The AGI. Blocky, which is blocky EGA. Mm-hmm. Then the SCI, which is dithered and better looking EGA, which is where the palette we're working with. And like I said, we very loosely, because it's pretty much all Julia except for me making noise. And then you get to VGA, which is kind of a lot of colors. The palette greatly expands there. And then you get to whatever after that. It just gets crazy after that. 16 million colors, I think, come after that or something. I don't know. But what Roberta did is starts with Mystery House and she ends... What's her last game? Is her last game Phantasmagoria? I'm not too sure. It may not be her last, but it stretched the idea of graphics, and she goes to great length on the podcast. Paul is here. Great. No, we'd love to have him in here. But she goes to great length to describe the process of making a game at the time, which is a full motion video game that was kind of a revolutionary process, for the time they were making that game. Volume remote. Hey, there's Paul.
Hello, Paul.
Dude, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you so much.
King's Quest 8. Was King's Quest 8 her last game? Yes, it was. And that pushed 3D graphics. And so you can kind of see the progression of where she was going. She was trying to stretch those boundaries of graphics. So she probably, like many people that were her colleagues, like, this looks like crap. I don't want to go back. We want to go forward. Excuse me. And I think the same thing happened in music, where people recording in the 50s, 60s, and 70s thought their recording process sounded like crap. And now everybody wants their vocal sound to be like Frank Sinatra from the Capitol building. And it's like, okay, we can't get it because none of that equipment is made anymore the same way. And it just doesn't sound the same as back in the day. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting point that she brings up, but I also kind of disagree with the fact that the kids will get ruined by those graphics. I think there's a lot of love for the retro style graphics. And I think that's what the point that the CGG folks were trying to make to her. Whether it got through or not is another story, but that's her thoughts. So then let's go on and say, I think it's this one here.
Give me the name of a company that you think could afford to and would be the best company that might want to put their means and resources into an adventure game, whatever that company is, that maybe could take this game designer that seems to have, the talent to do it, and give them a chance to see what they can do and bring it, up to what we all think that we'd like to see graphically with animations, but yet is still that same game. I think that there is a game out there and a person, if there is a company that is willing to do it and give them the means to do it.
So this question actually in the podcast didn't really get answered because the interviewee was trying to interview the interviewers. We're like, wait, Roberta, we're trying to talk about you. But what do you guys think? Is there a company name? Let's talk about a company name. I mean, is there a company that does that? There are adventure games. I would say that the majority of them are indie studios with low budgets. Did you have one in mind, Rick or Paul or Anna, that you guys thought of? Telltale, which they closed and then they reopened. Telltale might be the closest thing, right? PNC games coming up. Capia being on. Yeah, but that's a very small team. That's 2 people, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or 3 people. The companies are the designers. Best bet might be Microsoft. Well, Microsoft, I think they got eventually the publishing rights for the very first adventure game ever, right? Colossal Cave Adventure eventually became Microsoft Adventure. Am I quoting that correctly? I think so. Are any of the small games companies funded by big companies? Big companies. That's what I'm curious about. Is any large company? Yes. Well, Romero Games, Empire of Sin, is published by Paradox Interactive, and they're a pretty big company. And when you have a publishing deal, I mean, I don't know the details of it, and I can't really talk about them if I did. But the publisher is usually the one taking the financial risk, or if it's a large AAA with their publisher and the game studio as well. Definitely not EA. Transolar Games is like 8 of us. Yeah, that's what I mean. And you guys don't have $10 million budgets for every game, I'm assuming. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you do, but I doubt it's the case. Bill Kuhn also made a really good point before, and he said, but to be honest, Sierra and the later musicians would have tanked if they had stayed with the existing technology and not moved forward. Certainly in computer games, it's true. In music, not as much, but definitely in computer games, PC, video games, whatever. So who made the King's Quest game? Wasn't that Sierra? Didn't they that's Activision that owns Sierra? The Sierra IP? I think so.
Oh, hey, Tom.
What's up, Tom? Imagine a $10 million budget for an EGA parser game. Well, I would assume that a lot of that budget would be to localization, because I don't know what else you could do. I mean, you could just make a really huge game.
Really long game.
Yeah. Or like lots of Activision Vivendi. Okay, yeah. What I heard was after Telltale struck gold with the Walking Dead game, they just stuck to that formula and shot down any attempts to experiment beyond that. Interesting. Well, I don't know of any AAA companies make point-and-click games. Yeah, I certainly don't. The Odd Gentlemen were devs of new King's Quest under the Sierra Activision banner. Okay, there you go.
So EGA parser MMO, or what you could do is have something that comes out, like if you have $10 million, you could hire people to come out with new stuff once a week, like it's a television show or something.
Episodes? That's true, you could. That would be pretty cool.
Hey, Retrograde Tom, good to see you. And 2 Toms have come into chat. Good to see you, Retrograde Tom.
Tom.
Yes, Retrograde Tom he's currently playing Last Half of Darkness. And I saw that mentioned in chat a bit earlier.
So Tondagasa shouted him out last night then, because he was one talking about Last Half of Darkness, and I said, yeah, I know the game. I don't remember it being a very good game, but I do know the game. Early adventure shareware era game.
Yes, yeah, and I have the disc with the original label and everything for that one, but not on me now.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I think I showed it on stream or something.
Did you?
One of the streams I must have. But yeah, I do have the disc, and it's so cool to see Tom playing it on his stream, and having people, like ton of people watching it and enjoying it. It's so nice to see the old stuff kept alive in that way. And I see way up earlier in chat, Black Holton is saying, my nephew loves retro graphics. There's no nostalgia attached to it. Anna said, my sons play old and new. They love a game because it is good. Jim plays games, said, kids grow up with Minecraft and like the low fidelity textures. And I've had that same experience showing the Crimson Diamond at events, is that kids are enticed by it too. And I'm not like, I'm not in the camp who wants everything to get pushed further and further. I think it's a good thing, but for me personally, I like where the technology was at that time. And there is appeal not only for people who are nostalgic for it, all kinds of young people, old people are into it. And what's beautiful about it is that, when Roberta Williams says she wants to know what company would do it, it's always a matter, okay, well, is this possible or not possible? And what they mean by that is, can a company make money with it? And what they mean by that is, will a company with hundreds of employees make money off of this?
Right.
And that's where it kind of diverges, because what's beautiful about the adventure games like Tom Simpson is making with Fairy Darls and Grundislav is making, and hopefully what I'm making, is that you don't need hundreds of people. So what's possible becomes so much more possible in terms of what kind of, how many units you have to sell to make a living.
Well,
This thing does not have to sell 2 million copies to pay everybody. It just has to, whatever. It's just,
that's tough
beautiful
part,
to me.
right? That's the tough part, though, because if you have a large game and you want everybody to make another game after that game, then it has to outsell the budget, like at least decently, significantly, in order for somebody to reinvest in it. So it's tough,
Yeah, when you have investors and boards of directors, everything has to be bigger than the last thing, and it's constant growth, and that's unsustainable anyway. And so, I don't think any company can sustain that forever. And if you're just a very small team, 1 person, 2 person, and you could just keep putting out stuff regularly and selling a decent amount, then I think it's totally doable. And the fact that it couldn't have back in the day, but now we have all these modern tools and conveniences and digital distribution, it is so attainable, and it's awesome.
So let's go on to this other clip, because it kind of talks what we're talking about, and I think Roberta touches on it, and maybe Rick touches on it as well.
Well, so it sounds to me so the big companies that have more money don't want to put the money into it, probably because they probably don't believe in the in that style of game, that they're just probably don't think that it could have that big of an audience. I disagree, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to bring up an interesting point about that little clip. I actually asked one of the gaming gurus I speak with, not to not be named, and they said the problem with adventure games is YouTube and Let's Plays. Because once your game is solved, then nobody necessarily, there's not like a million different replay. The replay value goes out the door. Versus back when Roberta was making games, it was harder to get the answers. You had to buy the hint book. You had to maybe get some tips from other people playing it. You certainly didn't have the internet. Now you can go with a walkthrough. That's what I loved about playing Julia's game. There was no walkthrough anywhere. Well, yeah, but I'm sure there will be, There has to be at some point. So the question is then, are you going to try to make something different, or are you going to try to go another direction? Now, Julia, in the upside for Julia and I, Julia's a one-man team, even though she's not a man. She's a one-woman team, one-woman show. So she can she doesn't need to make $10 million in order to potentially make more games or another game or whatever. But the flip side is, because she's a one-woman show, she doesn't have all the resources available that a larger team would have. The upside is, for us, we're on stream right now talking about a game that's in development with no NDAs and whatever. We're just trying not to do any spoilers, but that's it, right? We're trying not to spoil anything post chapter 1. So, yeah, sorry, this chat is blowing up a little bit. I'm going to try to get through some of it. Maybe Julia, you can help me.
Yeah, I'm just going through. Yeah, Retrograde Tom way back mentioned Beneath the Steel Sky 2 was made by Revolution.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I haven't played it. I don't even know, is that even an adventure game, or is it something else? I have no idea.
Yeah, I haven't played that either. What was the other one they said? Leisure Suit Larry 7. Beyond a Steel Sky 2. Or Beyond a Steel Sky as opposed to Beneath a Steel Sky. I guess it wasn't called Bass 2. I don't know what it was called. I don't know. Beyond a Steel Sky, right? Did anybody play it? Did you play it?
No, no.
And then Rick said, in that moment, I wasn't really thinking about big size studios. I was thinking about the scrappy indie devs who are making point and click adventures, but trying to move them forward for the retro versus going for the retro throwback. Yeah, it's tough. Point and click over text parser. Yeah, because, you know, there's an obvious, not learning curve, but there's it's more of a, what's the, I guess it is the kind of learning curve. Well, what's the word I'm looking for? Another hurdle that you have to be able to type. So you need maybe a keyboard or something. And Paul says, the volume remote says, I love pixel art in part for seeing how much one can accomplish with so little. Every pixel is had placed and well thought out. Yeah, I mean, totally. So yeah, the strategy guides, that was a big money maker for Sierra, as I understand. I would love to ask Ken about all those money questions. You know, one question I'd love to ask Ken Williams is what the logic was in terms of manufacturing and the manufacturing process. Since I have all these dang big box games, I'd love to know more about why were these discs white and why were these discs blue and why were these discs black and why did these labels look like this and why did these labels look like that? I assume he would know all that stuff.
Well, they had that one at the time, and so that's why.
I always assume, and I think I've probably said it on stream before, that he was a master of trying to make and keep the company profitable. So he said, if we got blue discs, that's what goes in the box. We're out of blue discs, use white discs.
Yeah.
We're out of this, use that. Okay, we're going to go to this one label that we're just going to print on with a dot matrix printer, and that's all of the disc labels. So we only have one disc label no matter what game is being made. And, you know, stuff like that. But that saves the company money. I mean, you got to be smart to try to, especially to reach a level like they did. Ken has to be a brilliant level CEO because he ran a giant company. 1,000 employees is no joke. So yeah, anyway, I missed a lot of this chat. I'm sorry. Did you catch any things out of here?
Well, I think, Jim just said latest is a big budget adventure game would really do something amazing with branching storylines, hundreds of permutations of how the game would progress or could progress. And I think, yeah, when we talk about big, huge companies in general versus smaller companies and big studios versus smaller studios in terms of stuff, even like movies, like the coolest, most interesting stuff you're going to find is not going to be the $300 million blockbuster. It just can't be. It just won't work because so many people need to get paid and they need it to be a sure thing. Or just about as sure as you could possibly achieve at that level. And so, yeah, you're gonna get, you know, very extreme, you know, and I'm not saying this is bad. You're gonna get broad entertainment to appeal to the most people. The most interesting stuff is getting made at like the $20 million mark, maybe 10 million, 20 million, where it's enough to make it look good and sound good, but you get like different things, risky things, stuff that might not work out. But I'd rather see 5 of those or 6 or 10 of those than, you know, maybe one blockbuster because there might be something I'd never seen before. There might be something that maybe surprises me or shocks me. And that's what I'm more interested in than the broad stuff. And I think when something is so story-based as, you know, as an adventure game is, that's what I want. I'd rather have even a 5-hour experience. Like Furia Darls is a small experience. It's not very long at all. But what it is it's unique. It's different, and because it's not, you know, it's not $1 billion industry thing, you can have it be personal, and that's what's cool to me and exciting to me. That's what excites me more than the latest console exclusive game or the latest 3D thing that, you know, 400 people took 4 years to make. I've never really been interested in that. I've been interested in something that will be creatively cool and different.
Well, I suppose that's why I still will play Quest for Glory 1 or any of the Quest for Glory games today, because they have that extra RPG element. And the interesting thing, I heard Roberta talking about it with King's Quest 8, that she felt like King's Quest 8 could have been the thing that they really wanted. But I'm like, didn't Quest for Glory kind of already do most of those things, except for the 3D part? They did pretty much all of it. They did it in the 80s. When was Quest for Glory 1? 80, 88, 89, something like that. I mean, that was revolutionary. But then I saw also Mousimus said, yeah, it's true about YouTube. Modern adventure games need more replayability. Perhaps take some clues from RPGs like Skyrim. Okay, interesting thing there. Jim Plays Games says, I think a big budget with adventure, hundreds of permutations. Yeah, the problem is, and then I saw Deluxe Tuck said Pendragon, which is really cool, that has a procedural narrative. I was actually thinking of something like that myself. A procedural narrative would mean basically nobody got the same story. And then Slat said Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now here's the problem with comparing Skyrim and Breath of the Wild. Those are the biggest budget, pretty much, at the top end of budgets for games. Like, you can't really do a lot of the things. If you want to make a Skyrim, as a solo dev, you're off the deep end. It's not going to happen. That's like, I'm going to be the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks next Sunday. It's just not going to happen. The budgets are so...
Wild took 400 people 4 years to make, just to let you know.
400 people 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and they all got paid salaries for the most part, I assume.
I'm assuming that most, if not all of them, did.
That budget's huge. So, yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. Sorry, this chat is crazy. But yeah, QFG was 89. Okay, cool. Yeah, QFG to me is one of the most replayable point-and-click adventure games ever made, because you can play it as a fighter, thief, or magic user, or paladin. You get later branching things. So there's immediately 3 different ways you might want to play the game. But in a game like the Crimson Diamond, you're not going to have... There's no like arcade sequence combats with magic and wizards and spells and space guns and things like that, so it's a little bit different with the style of the game, right?
Well, here's the thing about, procedurally generated storylines, or doing it more like a roguelike, or thousands of permutations. I like adventure games that that tell a story and tell an effective story. And I think there's always going to be a bit of a give and take between, I have a story that I want to tell that's going to be paced well and have an arc and a resolution, versus something that is going to be done kind of piecemeal or automatic and generated on the fly. I don't see how that could be a more satisfying story necessarily. I think it will have more replay value, certainly, but I don't know. I mean, I want to tell a story, a very specific story, and I want there to be player agency in that, but at the same time, if they have complete control, then how much of a story can I actually tell?
Yep.
And I actually I went back to my old college, and I got to do a guest lecture spot where we talked about narrative design. And my example is I used in the lecture was Three Little Pigs. So everyone knows basic story of Three Little Pigs. There's a straw house, wooden house, brick house, and then you build up to that, and then the climax is he can't blow down the brick house, and the 3 little pigs live happily ever after. Well, if it's an open world game, I can go straight to the brick house, or I can go to a different village, or am I playing a different character, or the arc of building up the tension of straw, wood, brick, you kind of start skipping steps, and then are you going to have an arc? Is that even going to exist anymore? And I guess it can. I guess you can mathematically make something happen that way. But particularly in something like a mystery story where the pieces have to fit together, and it's almost like a puzzle that has to fit in a very specific way. People have to have motivations that make sense, and everything has to be pre-established. Like, you have to foreshadow and leave clues and hints everywhere. I guess it could happen if you have a big team. But I've always been someone who likes to work on my own and have my own point of view. And I don't know, it strikes me as not worth it, almost.
Right. Eventually you got to finish a game, right?
Please prove me wrong.
No, eventually you got to ship a game at some point. You can't just keep redesigning and redesigning and redesigning. And I saw something cool. Elusive Goalie said something about making a game is like filmmaking is like a small outfit, like id was able to do what they did. If the limitations are small, it can be done easier, just like anything. The interesting thing about that is, though, that worked at the time. And now id, believe it or not, I'm sure we've all heard the news by now, but id is now owned by Microsoft. They bought the Bethesda ZeniMax company for $7.5 billion, and now they are owned by Microsoft. And there is a chance that we may see a return of designers and developers Carmack, potentially Romero. I have no inside information. I'm just thinking out loud. I did see Carmack tweeted that he would like to maybe go back. He said maybe there was a chance that he could go back and work with it. I don't know the details of any of it, but it's pretty cool. So anyway, at the time it worked. They were a small team, but even now, a lot of those rules that you see people quote John Romero on his design rules, always make your own tools. If you ask him now if he's making his own tools, the answer is no. He's not obeying all his own rules now, so it is what it is. Bethesda could drop all the microtransaction stuff. Yeah, listen. I'm glad it's generated such a discussion. I'm sorry I can't follow it so much because it's generated such a discussion. But listen, that's exactly what the point of this was. I'm loving this. And now lastly, we had one more quick clip I wanted to play with the CGG podcast, Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
That's a favorite. And then I actually enjoyed the Colonel's Bequest with
Colonel's Bequest.
I really wanted to do I wanted to start a Laura Bow series, but it never really happened. I did the first one, and then Bruce Balfour did the second one, and then for some reason it just never went on, and I got into other games, saying do this one or do that one, and so
well, Colonel's Bequest is definitely a big favorite of mine. It was, I actually, it really influenced me a lot when I was younger in school.
The Colonel's Bequest?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, good. You don't hear too many people that played that.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed doing it.
And a good friend of ours, Julia Minamata, she's making a game called The Crimson Diamond, which is very inspired by the Colonel's Bequest art style and story.
Including the text parser part.
Yeah. But I would say those three I enjoyed the most. But among those three, each of them I enjoyed for different reasons.
Well, that's why we played that clip, or I selected that clip actually. Roberta. Julia had nothing to do with that one. What's up, Amiga Bill? So we just had our good buddy Amiga Bill jump on the stream. If anybody has not seen an Amiga Bill stream, they need to. So let me shout him out right now.
Yes, do. Amazing work.
He's a great dude, and I've met him in person. I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person, and an Amiga fanatic to a greater degree than myself, which is hard to say, but he definitely is. It's awesome. So yes, let's go back to this. That shout out was awesome. Thank you, Rick.
Yes, thank you, Rick.
You went out of your way to put that in there, and it's much appreciated. And we would love to I think we should try to get a copy into Roberta's hands at some point. And I think we should be able to make that happen easily enough. Our friend, I don't know, I think I told you this, Julia, but I don't know if everybody here knows. My friend Enrico, he's a photographer from Italy, but also a huge collector of early Sierra and early Origin games. And he's actually working with Ken, designing the cover for the book. And also now he's provided some photos for the book that will be in there, some rare photos of games that probably nobody even knew existed. And he is in regular contact with Ken, so I don't think it would be too much of a tall order to get a copy of the Crimson Diamond into Roberta's hands at some point, because I think she might actually sit down and play a text parser. Who knows?
Maybe I think she's past that, but I would not mind trying.
I don't know. Whatever. I'll be the shill. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I don't have a problem with that at all. But yeah, so that we really appreciate that shout out from the Classic Gamers Guild, Rick and Anna and Paul. Thank you so much for being a part of this stream, and we can all talk about all of this stuff forever. What I would recommend that you guys do, if you haven't done it, log on and add the podcast, the Classic Gamers Guild podcast, to your listening list on Podbean. Can we throw the link up here? Do I have it here? Yes, I have it. Oh, Stream Elements just got in my way. There it is again. Yeah, that's awesome, Rick. And yeah, it's an awesome interview. And listen, if you don't know this, Roberta Williams does not give interviews. There's like 10 of them on YouTube over the past 30 years, and that's it. That's all of the ones she's done. So
It was huge.
I heard something. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Ken went to ask Roberta about jumping on the podcast, and I had heard something that there was a little murmur of Ken wondering, if he was too boring. Is that true, Rick? Is there any truth to that? Yes.
Oh my goodness.
No, that's so funny. Oh, thank you, Paul, the volume remote. Thank you for being here. I know.
Yeah,
I would.
thank you, Paul.
I would love to discuss at more length sometime with you some of the music on the stream. It would be awesome because I know you're a full-time musician as well, so that would be awesome. But yes, you would explain it best, Rick. Bill Kuhn, I think that's a little bit in the fantasy world, but that would be cool. I don't think, you know what? I think what they've done stands on its own. I don't think they need to make another computer game. They need to make another company. And, I think they enjoy their time, spending their time with each other and their family. And listen, I get it. If I had the ability to retire like Ken and Roberta did, you better believe I'm gone. So yeah, so Rick is going to explain what happened. I guess Ken was under the impression that he was boring. So Ken steps into the other room and we only hear a few murmurs. So during editing, I took that bit and turned the volume up to see if I could make out what they were saying. It's hard to hear, but I get the gist of it. But the gist of it was, this should be good.
Oh, awesome, Paul. Yeah, we'd love to have you on.
That would
I
be
think
great.
You could speak musician to Dan. I can't do that.
We got a good amount of musicians in the chat, and they speak musician.
That's
which
true
is cool.
too.
Because you could not hear this
Yes,
at all during the recording.
mentioned his game. People complain it's being too short. 2 years of evenings and weekends, and he's got the game as it is. And I think people are fine with shorter experiences for the most part, and especially nowadays. I mean, I'd rather have, like I said, a 5-hour, really awesome, unique experience rather than something that is trying to extend itself artificially.
Do you guys consider the What Remains of Edith Finch in the classic adventure style? Because I know that's one of the bigger award-winning adventure games.
I haven't actually played it. I have it, I think, somewhere, but I haven't played it yet.
Okay, interesting. We're all waiting.
Yes, what the gist of it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all right, Rick. Take your time. I'm working on not saying bloody before the word blank. Once I get there, we'll bloody talk about it. Not played Edith Finch. What Remains is fantastic. This is not verbatim and just a generalization of the conversation. Ken says to Roberta, "Hey, you want to talk to these people? I'm getting too boring." Roberta, "What? No. Who?" Ken, "Classic game or something." Roberta, "Did you tell them I was going to talk to them?" Ken, "Just for 5 minutes." Ah, Ken. That's fantastic. And then
she ends up talking for what, half an hour, I think Rick said.
She did not sound bored to me. So if she didn't want to be on there, totally, I get it. But once she was on there, it was great.
And I get that feeling too sometimes. Even the beginning of just about every stream, just 5 minutes before I go on, I'm just, oh my gosh.
She has to talk to Dan. I don't want to talk to Dan. Oh my God, I have to spend 3 hours with him. Ugh. And listen,
it wasn't as bad as I was expecting.
No, it was good. And the interview was.
I didn't say that. I said it wasn't as bad as I was expecting.
No, it was. You said it wasn't as bad. Is it? Huh. That's a good shout out. She was very kind to come on and chat with us, and she was absolutely wonderful to talk to. Yeah, it sounded like that. It sounded like that. She was talking about production of Phantasmagoria. I mean, she probably doesn't get to ask, or she's probably not asked that a lot, and doesn't get to talk about it a lot. And I cut out all this from the podcast, but there's her recent project is a book, and I'll leave that. You can go listen to the podcast, and she'll talk all about it on there. And she was enthusiastic about the green screen, which she actually referred to it as blue screen, which I think at the time it might have been blue screen, or the video game CGI stuff was blue screen.
Yeah. But she remembers it so well. It's just fresh in her mind, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly seemed that way, right? Now, I asked this before. I asked Julie, I was like, don't you think Roberta Williams sounds identical? What's her what's the woman's name? Mary Steenburgen?
Is she the one in Back to the Future 3?
Yeah,
Because you started her name, and I'm like, I don't know if that's the
she's
one.
Clara Clayton in Back to the Future 3. She's Dr. Emmett Brown's wife in that movie, and she's in a bunch of other movies. And she sounds, to me, she sounds uncanny to Roberta Williams. I didn't want to play any of it because I didn't want us to get another copyright strike against it, but I guess we could.
Mary Steenburgen, yep, correct.
Steenburgen. She sounds just like... Can we put up a link maybe to the YouTube video of her talking to Doc Brown and people can watch it?
Oh my gosh, Dan.
Please.
I don't know what that clip would be. What do I look up?
YouTube. Or somebody else, somebody else with their Google chops in the chat. Can
Doc talking to Doc's wife in Back to the Future 3. You think I'm going to get results?
Yes, she does sound like her. Oh, come on. We all know Back to the Future 3. I do.
I know, but the particular, clip you'd want?
She's only in Back to the Future 3. No, I just want to hear her talking, her voice. Because her voice sounds almost identical to Roberta Williams.
Okay, so find something.
Oh, here we go. Thank you,
someone
Bill.
found?
Yep. Bill Kuhn saved your butt.
Thank you, Bill Kuhn. My goodness.
He actually likes you. Oh, yeah. Just check out that clip and see what you think. See if she sounds... She's in a bunch of other movies, too. I just couldn't remember what movies she was in.
I can't honestly say I've seen her in anything else.
I'm
going to look up Mary Steenburgen on IMDb.
She had like a run in the 90s, as I remember. A small run.
Okay. What has she been up to?
She does sound like Lori. Interesting.
What's that?
She sounds like Lori. She's married to Ted Danson.
I think she sounds like Lori. That's what I said.
Oh, I didn't know that. How about that? At the end of the interview, she shouted bye to us from the other room. That's awesome.
That was so cute.
She's in Time After Time and other travel movies. She's had a resurgence in recent years. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think I remember her most from Back to the Future 3 because I watched, the Back to the Future I watched the most was the first one. And that would make an awesome adventure game. The best Back to the Future game I'm aware of is only available in Japan. And that's Super Back to the Future Part 2.
I love how it's called Super Back to the Future. That's great.
Yeah, it was a Super Nintendo game.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But it was a platformer, and it was actually good.
Why don't they do that now still? Why don't they have a console name that has an adjective in the front, and then every game has that adjective in its title?
Xbox Series X Halo? That's a mouthful.
It'd be like X Halo, X...
Halo
I don't know what
X,
to make.
Halo X2, Halo X3, I don't know.
That's what they do. They don't do that for that, though. They had Mega Man X, and that wasn't an Xbox game.
No, that was a PlayStation and Super Nintendo.
I want like Super Nintendo, Super, whatever, Super this, Super that, Super the other thing. That's great. They need to bring it back.
You could. Super Crimson Diamond. Oh, man. Super Switch. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah.
Super Back to the Future is hilarious to me. I don't know why. It's just really
super. No, it's not. It's Super Back to the Future Part 2. And there isn't a Super Back to the Future Part 1. There's only a Part 2.
Back to the Super Future 2.
Yeah, I don't know. Some guys made a Back to the Future adventure fan game. I knew about that. Didn't they cross a few other like IPs together? And I was worried that they were going to get shut down or get a C&D. Did you ever play that on stream, Amiga Bill? Super inconvenient, smart as a 9-verb point and click. Oh yeah, that looks Crimson Diamond 64. If that happens, I'm out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's another one where Nintendo 64, didn't they have a bunch of games that ended in 64? Is that what Eating Away
Superman 64, that game's awful. Awful.
Yes.
There's no GameCube. Once they hit GameCube, they dropped it. There's no Mario Cubed or anything like that. I'll admit, did feel bad for Roberta to be put on the spot to come on the show, but I think we did well to make her feel comfortable and welcome, and I can't believe it happened. It's certainly a high point in my life. That's awesome. Yeah. She does sound a lot like Mary Steenburgen, right? Virgin, right? I think so too. You think she sounds like Lori Cole? I don't know. I've listened to a lot of Lori Cole. I never got that. They made the
Yeah.
mistake of calling the Wii U the Wii U. Yeah, that's a terrible name. It really is.
It really is.
And you know what? Everybody thought the Wii U was actually going to be the Switch when it came out because they're like, "Oh, that gamepad just plays on its own, right?" And they're like, "No, you need a box also that looks like a Wii." Well, why is
Well,
the
they did
gamepad so
like
big?
Wii Tennis, Wii Sports, Wii this, Wii that.
Yeah, they
right?
did. That's true. That's true. They did Wii Sports. I don't know if they did a lot of other ones, but I don't know. Wii U sounds like a European siren. Yes, it does. A lot of people thought the Wii U was a peripheral for the Wii. Exactly. You got that stupid, and then they made the Switch, which is the same gamepad, but the controller's removed, and it's actually a standalone console instead of the Wii U, which is like tethered to a brick that's not portable. You know, everybody thought that when the Wii U came out, it was going to be portable. Oh, you just need the gamepad. You don't need that other CD thing. You can just put the games right on the pad, right? No. The only thing that was cool about it is you didn't need a TV. You could just play the game on the pad. But other than that, it was kind of I don't know. It's kind of a lack of whatever. Yeah, an educational partnership.
University,
That's pretty
yeah.
funny. Yeah, I don't know. And then Switch is literally what everybody thought Wii U was supposed to be when it was released. Like, oh yeah, you can play this. You can take it everywhere. So like, Switch, in a way, is almost not innovative at all. It was like what people were asking for before Wii U was released. And then like, hey, so that gamepad's just, you can do whatever you want with it, right? No, it's tethered. And you can't even go that far away from the console with it. So I don't know. Wii and Wii U, I don't know. They had some really cool stuff that they tried to do that never really caught on. And I think even with Switch, they tried to do stuff that still hasn't caught on.
And I give them full credit, Nintendo, for trying stuff that doesn't catch on, because sometimes it catches on quite well.
Yeah, in a way, they use an underpowered console. They're like Apple in a way. They use an underpowered console, but they try to get the most out of the software that they can. And I think they do. Yeah, the Virtual Boy. Yeah, that one was rough. But they
And
were trying.
I never had a console really growing up, but I really do have a soft spot for Nintendo for exactly the same reason as why I have a soft spot for indie adventure games. It's not about being the strongest and the fastest. It's about who is trying something different and creative and clever. Maybe it's not going to work, but it's going to be different. And that's what I'm interested in. So that's how I've always felt about that whole battle between these big companies. And they're a big company, and yet they still occasionally try stuff, and they'll fall on their face, but they generate a lot of goodwill, and I think that's why they often get away with stuff maybe other companies may not get away with, because they feel like Nintendo is trying in a way.
Well, they've done a lot of things design-wise with their games that's been revolutionary. If you've ever heard, I actually was on a Zoom call one day with Tom Hall, who is part of one of the founders also of id Software. John Romero was on the call as well. But we were just talking with Tom. Brenda set it up for a few of us, and we were just talking with him, and he said, Commander Keen obviously was one of he's the creator of Commander Keen and the IP. He said he had an idea for Super Mario 64 before Super Mario 64 came out, and just never was able to have the opportunity to make it. But if you imagine Commander Keen as Mario 64, I mean, it doesn't take that much to imagine that would have been unbelievable. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Sadly, only 1 in 100 experiments and 10 out of 10 annual FIFA games sell. Yeah, I actually love. Yes, that Tom Hall is his deal. Oh yes, that's funny. Rick reminds me. Speaking of Romero, I believe you had a correction to make for Ken. So Ken Williams said, "Yeah, I was talking to John Carmack the other day." And he remembers everything. He has like this perfect memory. And I'm like, no, that's Romero. He definitely talked to Romero the other day. As I understand it, I forget. John's told me what it's called. Something that he remembers everything, like so he remembers all his code that he's written for like games back in the 90s or 80s, because he started making games in like 1980 or 79 also. But yeah, he remembers everything. I remember asking him about a cable that he had built for porting games from Apple to Commodore 64. And he's like, oh yeah, I built this. I popped the top off the Apple IIgs. I soldered this in and I did this. And this was well before id Software. This was when he worked at Origin in New Hampshire. And he ported Might and Magic 2 from Apple to Commodore 64. That was his first job there. So yeah, I forget what it's called, but he remembered a phone call where another friend of mine has the cable that he made for that specific machine. My friend Joe Garrity, who has and runs the Origin Museum, he's in possession of a lot of rare gaming artifacts from the Origin days and other days. I think the cable came from the New Hampshire office. Somebody gave him a bunch of stuff from the New Hampshire office, and John said it was the cable that he used to port from Apple to Commodore. He said they used the same, I forget exactly what he said, they used the same instruction set. I think maybe they used the same CPU. Were they both 6502? I'm not too sure. I know the Commodore was 6502, right? Is that right? The CPU is the same. Yep. 6510. Okay. Yeah. So he was able to port them easily. And the guy's brilliant. Romero's brilliant. I mean, talk to him for a little while, you'd be like, whoa. But he's also a really super guy. Brenda's great to work with. They're both great to work with, and just great people in general. I like to chat with them and hang out with Brenda as much as we can. Yeah, and Carmack is a different animal entirely. I can't say I know really much of anything about him, but he's definitely another guy. Like, he's a graphics guru. He's responsible for doing a lot of things graphically, and I think still that's really what is interesting interesting to him about what he does. So yes, thank you so much for quoting we were happy to have you guys on, and we were actually really thankful to have all three of you jump
Thank you. It was
jump in
amazing.
on with us. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Have a great night.
Carmack was the CTO of Oculus for a period of time, and I'm not sure if that's still his role, but he has like a really wild role. If you ever listen to the Joe Rogan podcast with John Carmack, that was pretty cool. I liked it anyway. Some people won't, but I sure enjoyed it and what he was talking about, and Moore's law and quantum computing and graphics processing and all these kind of cool stuff. Yeah, Rick, that's a good idea. It helps. It helps to make sure that you don't have to move out. Yeah, Carmack was on Joe Rogan before the pandemic. I want to say maybe the beginning of this year, end of last year. And it was really cool. It was really cool to see. So, yeah. So, thank you, Paul. Yeah, that was great to have you guys. Good night, Rick. Good night, Paul. I don't know if we have Anna for a little bit more, but that would be cool.
She's heading out too.
Anna's heading out too? Cool. No problem.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. Thanks. That was an amazing podcast. So thanks for letting us share it with our stream. And here is the link again.
Yes,
for people who want to check it out, and you should for sure.
Yeah, it's a time investment, but it's a worthy time investment.
Absolutely. So,
Edenway said John Romero hadn't asked me anything on Twitter a few weeks ago. I would have asked him an audio question, but I couldn't think of anything. Yeah, there's a lot of audio implementation questions I want to ask him about, because it's something. I think once the game is shipped, then I'll be able to bug him about stuff and bug Brenda about stuff more often. Because right now they're in full-fledged get this game finished and ready to go, because our release date's December 1st. So, and I don't know what the port situation is. I don't really know too much about the development past what I've been involved with. So I just know our release date's December 1st, and we'll have physical Switch copies, PS4 copies, and Xbox One, and you can pre-order it now on the Paradox interactive website. So, yeah. Good night, Rick. Thank you. Yeah, I actually watched. I watched the interview on YouTube, or I listened to it on YouTube, I should say.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say? I think I cut you
I'm
off.
trying to find the link, the YouTube link, because I just gave the podcast one. I
Okay,
didn't give the video one. I do want to find it so I can put it up to the link.
Let me see if I can figure out. That's not it. I like that.
Yes, thank you. Bill and Rick have linked the YouTube video. Thanks, Rick.
Edenwaith, Empire of Sin is a turn-based. Well, it's not really turn-based strategy. It's a strategy game based in the 1920s Prohibition Chicago. Your goal is to capture and become the king of Chicago by the end of Prohibition, which is 33, I think. The game's 13 years long, so you have 13 years to do it. There's a lot of different elements. Yeah. No. We're not going to do that. Different licenses. Empire of Sin, Crusader Kings crossover, since it's published by Paradox. Well, that's a Paradox question. But I played Crusader Kings 3, and that learning curve was very steep. The game was really interesting, but there was so much thrown at me during the tutorial. I was like, what in the hell is going on? Yet I still played it for a couple of hours, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I don't know if I accomplished good or bad or anything. It's one of the most complex games I've ever played, for sure. I wanted that chord. Not that one. I think Empire of Sin is going to have a lot of elements of a lot of strategy games in it, and it's not really immediately evident. But if you watch the stream, you'll be able to see them play and talk about it. But they're Grundislav, yes, sir. Yeah, the whole band is back together. Feels great. Good to have you here, Francisco. Did we shout out? You just shouted him out, right?
I assume I did.
Thank you. I feel like we want these chords. It does, Edenwaith. There's like there's a bunch of different neighborhoods in Chicago. That should be the chords. I gotta hear the melody, and I'm not hearing it. I want to use it for the music nerds. F sharp minor, C sharp major over F, E, and then I want to use E flat augmented, D, D flat. Oh, thanks, Tom. Cheer. Suspended. D flat suspended to D flat, and then back to F sharp. That's the idea. No, it's not really like Watch Dogs. Definitely a different style game. It's not really it's not a first person or third. It's third person, but you're like way zoomed out. You're there's almost elements of Command and Conquer in a way. There's elements of Sim City. There's elements of XCOM in the combat anyway. It's all kinds of stuff. Tommy guns, absolutely. And specific guns, Thompson submachine guns, and Al Capone is a character, a playable character in the game. There's and all the bosses have special abilities. It's great. It's great. Anyway. What did you say, Lace? The sus4 resolving to a 7 chord. It's one of my favorite. So like that? Or
Damn, you're gibberish.
Oh.
That's not.
Oh, got you. So that's what we're doing. She said dominant 7th was what she's saying. That's kind of cool. So maybe the chord should probably be this. So F sharp minor, C sharp over F, or I guess that, let me call this, it's getting weird because I want to try to keep classical right. I would call this D flat over F. And then E, it's really F sharp minor with E in the bass. And then E flat augmented. So what I could do is do this. So what I could do is record the left hand fake and then come up with the melody over that. That might work the best. Record. So I need to play it right. So. The question is, Blah Holtzen, am I painting the right scene or am I painting the wrong scene?
Well, I would like to say that I really like how it feels. There's a little bit of regret, like she doesn't want to leave, which I really enjoy about this piece.
That's probably this chord. That's saying I don't want to leave. Cool. So let's see. So that's the chord it should really be. But I like the augmented. It's weird and it's cool and it works. Too weird. The voice leading is not working. That's better. Sam Taki. Thank you, sir, for being here, moderating, and being helpful as always, sir. We'll talk. We'll expect your text shortly. something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the melody. That's just the. Close. Mm-hmm. Pretty close. Okay, I got another idea.
Blaholtz, and the context of the piece is, so this is, the game is separated into chapters, and there's 7 chapters planned. The demo is the first chapter, and this piece is meant to go in the front of the second chapter, which is not in the demo. And the context is, it's the morning, you just spent the night at the lodge, and it's been very interesting for you and intriguing, but now you're set to go home because you're being sent home by the inhospitable lodge owner. And so you're thinking, oh, I wish I could stay here longer, but no, we have to go back home now. And that's kind of the feeling of it.
But also, it's a private house.
Well, it was an inn once, so they do have plenty of room. So it's not like you're in one room shack or something. It's a huge lodge, plenty of bedrooms, plenty of beds.
Yes, but it's still a private house.
It's still a private house, and he's a recluse, and he wants you to go away because there's already too much drama happening for him. And you're thinking, this is a completely different environment that you're used to because you're a city girl, and now you're up in the northern woods, and the accommodations are much more luxurious than you're used to as well. Kind of grew up in a tough area of Toronto, which is a bit of her backstory, Nancy. And so she's just completely blown away and entranced by the surroundings inside the lodge, outside the lodge, and the people are very interesting for her as well. So she's naturally curious and wishes she could stick around.
And she's also hungry. Like she's a enthusiastic mineralogist in training, as it were, or attempting to be something.
Exactly, and she thought she was coming up here to get maybe her big break in her life because she wants to go to school and she wants to do all these things, but she needs to prove herself, and this was her chance to do that.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is now I can change the melody to a different instrument. Whoops, I changed the wrong instrument. Hold on.
Harpsichord.
Who said harpsichord? Grundislav.
Yes,
We could try harpsichord.
is it shut down at this point?
I think that might be as harpsichordy as we get on the MT32. This. Yeah, I don't know. Bach, maybe. I don't know if that's gonna work. If we had a legit harpsichord, that I think would work. Francisco, your ear is always really sharp. Do you have musical training or something? Oh, there's a harpsichord. I think that's the intro. What's up, Illy Swank?
It's a bit fancy, as Tonda says.
It's too fancy, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tonda is fancy. If you ever watch his streams, he is fancy. You'll know what I'm talking about.
He's messing around on the. He's getting some. Yeah, finally.
He's what?
After. No, Alias Swing wants to know what's up, and I'm saying you're finally getting done some work.
Oh, yeah. This is the first stream in a long time I've actually done something.
No, you did something the other time.
That's a little. I just can't think of a melody right now. All these melodies that I've played have not been good. I think harpsichord is. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be working either. But it could be.
It is
also
too
good.
fancy.
It might be too fancy. It might be too classical for this part.
Mm-hmm.
What?
It sounds nighttime, sleepy time.
Yeah. No Pirates of Pestilon. I don't remember the whole thing, but something like that.
That's for the part where the spaceship lands in the woods.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, I think what's going on has to be probably maybe the same instrument or like a clarinet or something quieter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The harpsichord kind of propels to the front too much, I think. Because we want you to be aware of the music, but it shouldn't be like blasting you. Francisco, we actually mentioned you earlier. We were saying the difference between the games that you're making, the adventure games you're making, which have VO, and this game, which has no VO. I get a lot more freedom. even though I'm using a limited instrument, I get a lot more freedom in the composition because I don't have to fight with any other noise-making sources, sound-making sources. Amiga Bill says, I'm actually editing a music video while I watch, and I started cutting to dance music. Uh-oh, sorry, bro. Saying classical reminded me of a PC speaker program. Piano Man goes Baroque. Hi-yo. Piano Man always goes Baroque, trust me. Where there's a whole Baroque music piece was played pretty darn well by PC speaker. There's some good PC speaker classical music. Well, good is a relative term. There is enjoyable stuff for me.
Okay.
I would rather listen to probably one of the great pianists or great classical musicians play it on their own instruments, but still. I get to be front and center, but I just don't have anything interrupting my sound. I don't know if I get to be super front and center. There's times I get to be front and center. Kind of like, I don't want it to be too silly. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, I actually kind of like that weird horn you had because it kind of sounds like Nancy in the back of her head. She's going, I want to stay here. It's like the vegetable thing you were playing from the Apogee.
The Pickle Wars? Or Commander Keen Dreams? Bobby Prince?
Yeah.
Was that the same episode we had Francisco playing the didgeridoo? Yeah, that was a good one.
She's kind of thinking, I want to stay here. I don't want to go.
That to Monkey Island? Better eat your vegetables, yeah. I think that was the riff.
Better eat your vegetables.
Something like
that. Yeah, industry, yes. Microsoft says the music carries a lot more emotional weight with no voiceover anyway.
Well, yeah, you don't really have another option. That's the only audio cue whatsoever. I don't know. It would be interesting one day to talk with you, Francisco, on stream, and maybe you can expound on what it is that how you direct the process for your games, because obviously you've made quite a few, and you're working on one currently. So I would be interested to hear about that. And I'd love to see you and Mark do a stream, which you said is coming, so I'm still going to hold you to that. And send you friendly but gentle reminder text messages or Facebook Messenger messages every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm really interested to know how Grim directs this musician, because I'd like to learn a thing or two.
Yeah. Well, the Lamplight City soundtrack specifically has a lot of interesting things going on harmonically. And then also Rosewater, which we kind of pointed out, and Shardlight too. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on, Oh, Elusive Goalie, you're aware of Bobby Prince? You should check out, you've probably already seen the clip we played, but we played the clip where it's a visit to id Software. I think it's 90 whenever, was it Quake or Doom they were working on? I think it was Doom, right? I don't remember. I think it was Doom because they still had like crosses and stuff in Doom. Like they had points. They hadn't removed the points from Doom. Yes. That is Doom, right? Yeah. Quake would have been a lot later.
Oh, it was Doom Deluxe Texas?
Yeah, it was Doom. Yeah. No, the game, they weren't he was there to work on Doom, but what he played was Commander Keen and then Pickle Wars.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. You know what? I hate to do this, but I'm gonna do what what I do when I run into things like this. I'm going to say I'm going to leave it like this for now because I'm happy with what I have, but I'm just not, for whatever reason, getting the little piece of melody that I want out of this or the next couple of pieces. I do like the sounds. But I'm just not getting what I want out of it. I don't know. So I hate to do that. Plus, we are coming up on our time anyhow. I think I'm going to say I'm going to save this and revisit it at a later time, possibly in 2 weeks or other maybe before then if I get a little chance to work on it. So yeah, Elusive Goalie says his rig was crazy. All the old tech was nuts in that video. I have probably all the old tech that he had here now. Why is another good question, but I have a lot of this stuff, including the game that Bobby Prince did the music for. Oh, let's switch back here. There we go. This is a nice mail order copy of Doom. And this is the full registered version, which is actually, believe it or not super easy to find. I don't know why. It was an extraordinarily popular game. I guess maybe some people... Could you download it back then? I don't think you could download it. I don't think you could download it until a lot later. Anyway. Starts about 5 minutes in with Bobby. Yes, perfect. You sent the video. Awesome. You still have the same box ducks with shades? It's kind of tough to find. And Julie, you should be happy because I didn't do a lot of show and tell tonight, right? I did like 1 or 2.
You really didn't. I don't know what we have to duplicate or replicate to get this to happen again.
And I got so much cool stuff to show off. I got a bunch of new cool stuff too.
You do, and that's half the fun of the cool stuff, is to show the cool stuff.
I should show off one little cool piece that I want to.
Did you get the good transformer yet?
No, I still haven't been able to track that down. But this I got, which is a watch that is made for a game called Otasan, which if you saw my stream with Julia 2 weeks ago, I was wearing a shirt that said 6 Engine on it, which is made by a guy named William Cage. And he's making a game called Otasan, which is related to Earthbound. But he made a game engine that runs in a browser. You can make your own games in it in the style of Final Fantasy VI, Earthbound, Final Fantasy III, whatever you want to call it. And you can do all that for free via browser. The whole engine is via browser. So it's pretty cool. And I don't know why he's doing it all for free, but that's his whole thing. He wants it all to be free. Like, I think he's running it as a non-profit, so that's pretty cool. Devastator, Omega Supreme. No, the only Transformer I have here, besides some DVDs, is Soundwave at the moment, and I don't really plan on getting any others unless I can find an Optimus Prime or a Blaster. Those are the only two, really. They're expensive. An Optimus Prime, like with all the parts, $500 or $600, maybe more.
What?
Yeah. Even Soundwave I got for a steal, and I think I only paid $20 for him. But the expensive ones are the little cassettes. And this was years and years ago I got him. I don't know.
So how much are the cassettes?
I don't know. Probably $40 a piece. And there's 3-4 of them. And there might be one that's like super rare and tough to find. I don't know. Who knows? But that is what it is. Yeah, I noticed I screwed up this thing on the stream elements.
Yes.
I don't know why that happened. Enter a message. Does it work though? No, it looks like
no, probably not.
an error occurred.
Nope.
Does the YouTube link work?
Oh, sure. Those ones are all separate.
Okay.
That's fine. This is the last one, which
Twitter,
is fine.
Your Twitter doesn't work though.
Oh, no way.
It says an error occurred. No information available. Does it work? I don't know.
Yeah, it works for me.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, it works fine.
I think we'll do two things.
Okay.
I think we'll thank everybody for coming. We'll let them know about our next stream, which is right here, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Making the Crimson Diamond Live continues as we have and host an episode Painting Pixels with Julia on her channel twitch.tv/a_maple mystery. And I think we got a couple of people on that I have here. We have, let's see, Adventures in Gaming, Taco Salad is on, The Renaissance is on, and this other dude, Kilgore Trout. He's the guy I was watching the other day. He's kind of pretty cool, but he's got a lot of viewers on, so I don't know if maybe we want to go with his channel and maybe do a raid for him, or what are we thinking? He's playing, let's see, who's playing what? Half-Life Opposing Force, pre-Source Engine Half-Life. We have the Renaissance doing La Mulana Help Again. Taco Salad is doing Adventures in Gaming. Those are the few I have on my list. Do you have anybody else that you suggest?
Let me check.
Thank you guys for coming, by the way, and
yeah, for sure.
maybe come hang with us and do this little raid for a minute. See if you like it. I wouldn't mind raiding Kilgore Trout. He does some pretty cool things, and he's using all original hardware, and he hates piracy. So I like
Perfect.
that.
Let's do that.
Tonda, thank you.
Tonda.
John Cady. I don't know John Cady. Playing Gabriel Knight. Interesting. You know Kilgore? Okay, cool. Why don't we do that? Let's raid him. I gotta copy his name.
Eden with had Rumble, Frenzy, Laserbeak, and Ravage. Then you must catch them all.
So there's 4. There's 4 total. Okay, cool. Let's do it. There we go.
Kilgore Trout.
Yeah, the other day he was playing Might and Magic 3, which I thought was really cool, with an
really
MT32.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So I think we should jump in it. Are we ready to go? Thank you guys all for being here, and thank you guys for. We'll see you next week. I'm excited to be with you guys every week. So Tuesday will be awesome with Julia. Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Making the Crimson Diamond Live, Painting Pixels with Julia. All right, guys. Later. And we are raiding.
Sweet. I really hope you recorded this time.